Recording in progress.
Director Bozo, can we test your mic, please? I hear you have logged in already. Director Abe Koga, can we test your mic, please? Director Abe Koga, can you hear me? Let's test your mic, please.
So, Chair,
Oh, okay. Okay, so we'll need to do roll call.
yes.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm gonna get started.
Okay.
Good evening. The VTA Directors' regular meeting of Thursday, March 6, 2025 is called to order. A few safety reminders. Please take a moment to identify your nearest exit. For everyone's safety, please do not block the exit doors. The nearest AED is by the public table in the back of chambers, and the restrooms are outside the double doors adjacent to the reception area. In the unlikely event that we need to evacuate, our assembly area is in the plaza outside of the building's double doors as shown on the screen. The address of our meeting location is also on the screen. Welcome to the members of the public joining us today. We appreciate everyone coming to the meeting, and we look forward to hearing from anyone who wishes to address the board. We do have our code of conduct and try to maintain a respectful environment for all speakers. It's important that everyone has a chance to be heard. We'll request that commenters refrain from chanting, yelling, applauding, or booing. And if such behavior occurs, we will remind you about our code of conduct. And if there are consistent disruptions, you'll be asked to leave the meeting. Thank you if we need to honor this request. For those who'd like to address the board, you're encouraged to complete a blue speaker card. These are at the public information table at the back of the room. Please submit the completed card to the board office staff before the item is heard. For those attending virtually, you can use the raise hand function in Zoom or press *9 if you are dialing in. We'll be inviting those who are attending in person to speak first, followed by those who are on Zoom. And to my colleagues, please keep your mics muted until you're ready to speak. And you can call my attention if you wish by waving, raising your hand, or turning on the red light on your mic. We have our colleague, alternate board member Bozo, joining us remotely. And we also have Director Abakoga joining us remotely. We will call on both of them so they can make the required disclosures.
Thank you, Chair. This is Margaret Abakoga. Having trouble getting my video camera on, but pursuant to Government Code Section 54953 F2AI, I would like to request to participate remotely due to illness. Thank you.
Same with me. This is Greg Bozo, alternate, and pursuant to Government Code 5493, I'm participating remotely due to illness, and I have the same thing. I'm trying to turn on the video, and it says the host will not let me.
We're on it, Chair.
Thank you very much. We're ready, and we may want to turn the volume up a little bit if we can when we have those remotely speaking. And with that, let's do the roll call. Elaine.
Abakoga.
Here,
Thank you. Arenas.
Here.
Bozo.
Here.
Burt.
Here.
Candelas. Absent. Cohen.
Here.
Present. Duong. She's present. Thank you. Foley.
Here.
Jane. Jane absent. Kamei.
Here.
Thank you. McAllister. Absent. Montano. Montano is present. Moore. Moore is present. Mulcahy. Absent. Sell.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Weinberg.
Here.
Mahan. Absent. Lopez.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Do you know that because we have folks joining us remotely, we'll need to do roll call votes for all action items? That takes us to item 1.2, which is the orders of the day. And I want to note for the record that the closed session item was removed as reflected in the revised agenda, which was published last Monday. A copy is at your place and on the public table. Are there any changes requested from my colleagues? Any requests, including pulling items off consent?
Yes, Chair. I would like to remove item 6.6.
Thank you. Noted. Anyone else? No? So if that is the case, can we get a motion and a second to approve the orders of the day, including the change that was made?
Second.
Was that Montano with the motion? Yeah, thank you. Can we get the roll, please?
Sure. Abicoga,
I,
Arenas,
Yes.
thank you. Candelas is absent. Cohen,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Kamei, Montano, Montano, yes. Sell,
yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Weinberg,
Yes.
Mahan is absent. Lopez,
Here. I'm
motion
sorry. Aye.
passed. Motion passed, Chair.
Thank you. That takes us to, because we don't have awards and commendation, we'll move on to item 3, which is public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the board, an item within the board's jurisdiction, but not on the agenda. We may not take board action or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda, except under special circumstances. We will start with the those in person, and I thank you for submitting your speaker cards if you have them. And then we'll go, after in person, we'll go to those joining online, if any. Please note, we have 30 minutes allocated for public comment for items not on the agenda. And again, we ask you to be respectful of all those in the room. And please adhere to our rules when addressing the board. Each person will be given 1 minute for their remarks. Just to ensure we can hear from as many people as possible, I kindly ask you to follow this process. And I'm going to call a few names so you can also start to line up in the order your names are read and stay within your allotted time. Thank you all. So we'll start with Akash Sabazle, then go to Rob Means, and then James Wright, and then Raj Singh. Oh, it's the mic on, yes.
Many stations are directly on expressways, including Caltrain, light rail, BART, and bus stations. Bus lines crossing expressways have bus stops at expressways. Yet, county roads keeps trying to eliminate bicyclists, pedestrians, and transit patrons from expressways for more car traffic lanes. In 2003, the VTA board voted, along with the BOS, to require bike lanes along expressways. In 2008, the VTA board and BOS voted to require sidewalks on expressways, usually on both sides of the road. Now, County Roads is trying to eliminate all bike lanes and half the sidewalks from expressways without a vote from the VTA board. My upload documents how this is dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rob Means, followed by James Wright, and then Raj Singh.
Good evening. I've been reading about your financial difficulties of the VTA agency, and starting off, of course, with the BART borough and the $5 billion shortfall that is likely given the new regime in Washington. But then there's also the $90 million sales tax shortfall that's occurred over the last 6 months, which is likely to become worse as the Republican recession kicks in. And then, of course, we've obviously got some labor issues going on that relates to compensation that might be fair. I'm suggesting that you unburden yourself from the biggest of these fiscal problems. That would be the BART borough. If you find a cheaper solution, and there's a $1 billion, not a $12 billion solution out there, then you could redirect some of that funding to other priorities, like fairly compensating your workers. Thank you.
Thank you. James Wright.
I'm just going to say this real politely. I don't think you guys should go on strike. I think you guys should just give these employees a 30% raise for each year of the contract. And, you know, we don't need a strike. This is awful. This is not the way how our transit should be treated. You guys need to step up and give these people a 30% raise. You know, these drivers have to put up a lot of crap on your buses, like people being bad and people damaging your light rail stations and stuff like that.
Thank you. We'll have Raj Singh, and then Marsha Willis, then Tammy Denota, and then Laura Joyce.
Good evening, directors. We just wanted to take a moment and provide you guys an update. As of Friday, this past Friday on the 28th, we received the Your Last and Best offer for our negotiations, and as a response of that same Friday evening, we presented our last and best as well. Since Friday, we have not had any meaningful conversation with the agency in regards to reaching terms on a new deal. And in fact, even the conversations today have been all around us trying to explain why a fair dispute resolution process is one of our top priorities. And as a result, we have something to present to you guys today. Starting Monday morning, ATU will be effectively on strike. No ATU member will be providing rolling buses or the light rail or any other service provided by ATU members. We hope either today or in the near future, you guys give us something that is fair and equitable. Thank you.
Thank you. Marsha Willis, followed by Tammy Denota, and then Laura Joyce, and then Jay West. Maisha, I'm sorry.
Okay. I've been Marsha my whole life. Everybody always calls me that. But can I start now? Okay. So my name is Maisha Willis. I work at VTA out of Shibuya. I am currently the chief steward with SEIU 521 out of VTA. I'm also a member of the negotiations team. And I will just say the negotiations have been disheartening so far, the whole process. It seems like VTA is coming after us to take everything and not give. Right now, a 2.5% raise for 4 years, or over 2.5 a year over 4 years, is not something that we're looking for or something that our members are not willing to accept. We've never worked under a 4-year contract, and we don't want to start working under a 4-year contract now. Also, with that, with the fair wages, we're also looking for things like 410s, increased tuition reimbursement. We don't want to get hurt and have our workers' comp cut off after 2 years. And there's a lot more to say, but I'll respect the time. So thank you.
Thank you. Tammy Denota, followed by Laura Joyce, and then Jay West.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Denota. I am celebrated my 30 years at VTA on January 1st. So I started when I was like 12, but that's not the point. I'm here as the SEIU chapter president and also Region 1 vice president. I'm representing all of my coworkers behind me. And they are here to tell you that they want a fair contract. Like Maisha said, 2.5% per year is not going to cut it. It's not going to help them feed their families. It's not going to help them pay for gas to go to work. We are one of the lowest paid workers at VTA with our classifications. We have had some class and comp adjustments, but not every worker in every position got that, even though they all deserved it. So when we got the class and comp studies, we were assured from VTA that that would not affect our wages and our contract, and we want VTA to keep its word. So Carolyn, the board, we expect you to keep our word. We want a fair contract, and 2.5 will not work. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura Joyce. I'm Office Specialist 2 at River Oaks Yard. And all I have to say is just we would like a fair contract for all of us in our union. And we do support our negotiation team. Thank you.
Do we have Jay West? Thank you. And then Eugene Bradley and Mara Esculati, followed by Joanna.
Okay. My name is Jay West, and I am engaged in a lawsuit with VTA without an attorney. From 2001 to 2025, I was subjected to racial and derogatory gender comments while I was attending the library in downtown San Jose. I was also subjected to threats of physical violence, which I believe were real and credible. The lawsuit has gone forward. Before I filed the lawsuit, there were multiple complaints made to customer service and no action was taken at all. At this time, I've been involved with the legal department who have not treated me fair. And Ms. Tan, you need to look into what's going on with your attorneys because the attorneys were not qualified to practice in the federal courts, and that's an issue. And they did not comply with discovery requests. So I request that VTA engage in good faith settlement discussions to end this lawsuit and provide me with fair and just compensation for the harassment treatment that I was that I encountered by the bus operators, mechanics, and others. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene Bradley. And please feel free to line up. We have Eugene Bradley, Naresh Gulati, and then Joanna.
Evening, board members, staff, and public. Eugene Bradley, Silicon Valley Transit users. I learned of the possibility of a labor dispute and strike about a few days ago. Speaking as somebody who's lived in New Jersey, who grew up in New Jersey, I learned that public transit unites all people, regardless of race, age, gender, whatever social status. It gets folks to school, work, families, medical appointments, etc. I beg both VTA and ATU Local 265, do the right thing and compromise as needed, and make sure that there is no strike, because certain people would love to see a strike happen. And with all the momentum VTA and ATU have built over the last year, after Public Transit Agency of the Year, let's do the right thing and make sure that there is no strike and that everybody is treated fairly and gets what they deserve. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Naresh Gulati, and I have to make a mention of 3 issues. The first one being the line 66. I've been requesting for the extension of the last stop for line 66 from July of 2019, and the last reminder was sent by me in May of 2024. Before that also, 1st February 2024. All I've been requesting is the last stop, which is at Dixon Road and North Millipetus, should be extended to the area where there are 3 prominent temples and some other neighborhoods, and they can be served well by an extension of this line. I request personally that this issue may please be considered and addressed. I have only received interim messages so far. The second issue is about putting name signages on the bus stops, as they are on the light rail stations. And the third thing, only one second, is about the conduct. At a time when we are preparing to applaud the VTA staff, there are still instances once in a while where a passenger is left out from being boarded within a vicinity of 20 to 30 meters. This happened with me right today. I'm sorry to report this, but should be addressed and sensitized.
We'll have Jay from our planning division to follow up with you and get your comments. Thank you, Mr. Gulati. He'll be standing in the back to connect with you. So next we have Joanna.
Hi everyone, my name's Joanna Mesqua and I work at VT in the technology department. Might have lost the attention of some of the board members, but I'm just really here to emphasize that we really want a fair contract. This is one of the most expensive places to live in the whole country, so asking for a fair livable wage shouldn't be a big ask. And also I think these board assistants deserve higher pay. You know, none of this would be happening without them. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And Elaine, do you have anyone online wishing to speak? Or Rainey?
Yes, Chair. We have 2. Blair, go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Hi, Blair Beekman. The way I'm understanding this, the VTA officials, they're offering like $800 a year, the 2.5 a year percent. That turns out to be about $70 a month in a raise. Whereas isn't local government workers and police, when they talk about their rate hike issues, don't they receive like $800 to $1,000 a month as part of their package, contract package dealing? I think you should be talking a bit more money for VTA workers on this subject, it sounds like. Living in San Diego now, I tried to view the VTA meeting of February. I couldn't view it on YouTube. Where is it gone? Why isn't it available? Is it a video snafu, or are you guys doing something odd? Please try to place it on YouTube soon, and the video on internet was really difficult to watch. Thank you.
The next speaker is Roland. Go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And actually, I'd like to echo Blair Bickman's comment, which is what I intended to talk about today, is that the quality of the video recording and due to multiple technical issues have really come to light recently. And my particular issue, I didn't know about the February board meeting. I'm very concerned that the December board meeting also disappeared. And the reason I cannot see it is because somebody has made this video private and requires authorization from somebody to review it. That needs to be addressed. But in closing, I urge the board to direct staff to issue an RFP for professional multimedia services to address this issue on a permanent basis. Thank you.
That ends public comment.
Thank you. And no other speaker cards? Okay. Thank you all those who came to speak. We'll now close public comment for items not on the agenda. That takes us to item 4, public hearings. We have none today, so we'll actually go next to 5, which is reports, and start with 5.1, committee reports. There's no report for 5.1A, Citizens Advisory Committee. For 5.1B, we have Yvonne Martinez-Beltran, Policy Advisory Committee Chair, joining us remotely.
Thank you, Chair. Yvonne Martinez-Beltran from Morgan Hill. On Thursday, February 13th, the Policy Advisory Committee met. We voted to recommend the VTA Board of Directors review and accept the Equitable Vehicle Miles Traveled Mitigation Program, final report, and program framework. As part of this discussion, the committee stressed the value of tools like this that could affect change across jurisdictional boundaries and encourage a focus on micro-mobility, first mile and last mile improvements among our different jurisdictions. That was positive. Next, the committee received a presentation on the 2016 Measure B Highway Interchanges Program and Vehicle Registration Fee countywide program funds. And we voted to support several actions to the program, program $1.4 million in vehicle registration fee countywide program funds to the US 101 25 Santa Teresa Boulevard Extension Project down here. Next, we received a presentation on VTA's transit-oriented development station, access studies, and community engagement activities that included the outreach meeting at VTA headquarters following the PAC meeting. Myself and a number of committee members participated in that transit-oriented development open house, and I found it very informative and really impressed with what the staff was doing to try and get some participation. Next, we received the program project's quarterly monitoring report for the period between October and December of 2024. And the next PAC meeting will be on, is scheduled to be on March 13th, however, that has been canceled. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The report for item 5.1C, Standing Committee, is in the packet. There's no report for 5.1D, Policy Advisory Board. And the report for item 5.1E the BSVT Oversight Committee report is in the packet. Staff, do you have any public comments for item 5.1? No. That takes us to 5.2, which is the general manager's report. So I'll turn it over to Carolyn.
Good evening. We have some good things to talk to you about and a number of other things. But one of those things you see in these photos is some of the celebrations to recognize our employees for their hard work, which earned the VTA Outstanding Transportation System Award for 2024 from the American Public Transportation Association. I'll have a little bit more about that in a moment. Next slide. First, I wanted to give you a brief preview of some of the issues we'll be talking about tonight. In item 7.1, as part of today's agenda, you will be voting on whether to authorize VTA to move forward with financing the acquisition of our new headquarters and the Transit Security Center in downtown San Jose with the issuance of long-term bonds. And these proceeds will also fund $25 million of improvements at each of our yards. 7.3 will be on there, which is a brief update of what we are doing to prepare for the major special events coming to Levi Stadium in 2026. We started our planning about a year ago, and this planning not only includes the security concerns for such large-scale events, but also planning for operations. As you know, we hosted Super Bowl fans successfully in 2016, but in 2026 we'll have Super Bowl, and then a few months later, we'll have 6 World Cup soccer games at Levi Stadium as well in the span of 3 weeks. So we are going to continue to give you updates through my monthly reports, as well as presentations to TPO and the board. I will say we have been meeting with the Bay Area Host Committee, and recently Director Jane had a meeting that was able to be with Ruth Shikata, does the government affairs for Bay Area Host Committee, and a few other members to discuss some of the opportunities for revenue for VTA, as well as planning for transportation. And then the last thing that will be coming to you are the BSV technology contracts. And one of the things I wanted to just highlight there is last year there was a lot of discussion about our contracts and how do we know whether the performance of the contractor. So we actually put this out to bid. We had a lot of good competition, and what we actually did do was include performance-based incentives to ensure the quality of the service that we're getting in this contract as well. And then the next slide is on the 2025 strategic plan. Last week at the board workshop, Scott Haywood, our chief of staff, noted that we will be developing a new strategic plan for VTA, and this plans to provide a clear direction for decision-making, resource allocation, and performance tracking. So now the work has now been initiated. The process includes interviews with the key internal and external stakeholders and workshops with the board and public. We're trying to get input from all levels of the agencies, our unions, the board of directors, the public, and the communities we serve. One of the things we'll be doing is updating our mission, vision, and values, and we'll be developing specific strategic initiatives. The next slide is on some of the special events, as I mentioned earlier. These were some of the sites that we actually had the celebrations, which included catered meals and good conversation. The food was very good. I got to go to at least one of them. I will have to say the staff and the employees were very appreciative. Really, it was really thanking them because we wouldn't have won the award without them. Next is customer service, and I want to touch base on a program that they're doing. So if you are a social media follower, you may have seen a series of posts highlighting the good work of this department. The series has been seen on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and LinkedIn, showcasing the various programs that our customer service department offers, in addition to answering customers' calls. We've highlighted our classroom youth outreach training, our downtown customer service center, and our efforts to ensure public places like libraries and community centers have access to our service schedules and maps. And if you get a chance with any of your own social media channels, please repost if you get an opportunity so that people can see the great work that we're doing. And we're very proud of our customer service department. And then the last two are just a couple special accolades I want to mention, which is a commendation. One is a commendation from State Assembly members Ash Kara and Patrick Aarons. They honor VTA for our efforts in creating affordable housing through our transit-oriented development program. And the second is the American Society of Civil Engineers, Region 9, recognized Caltrans, the City of San Jose, and VTA with the 2024 Outstanding Roadway and Highway Project. This award is for the US 101 De La Cruz Interchange, Trimble Road as well in there, and this prestigious honor is awarded to individuals and projects that represent the best in civil engineering across the state of California last year. And the award will be presented at a special awards luncheon on April 25th in Long Beach. And last, I just want to announce that we now have a VTA online merchandise store. These are just a few of the dozens of items that the public will be able to purchase, including a VTA logo pickleball racket. So the store goes live on March 10th, and you can find it on your website at vta.org. And so it does include apparel, so please get and proudly wear your VTA sweatshirt or jacket today. That's my sales pitch. Thank you. I don't have any other comments this evening on my report.
Thank you so much. And I believe we do have a hand raised for public comment for this item.
Yes, we do have one, Chair. Roland, go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you. Very briefly, I'd like to touch on item 2.B, which is the ridership figures. The bus is very encouraging. I think probably at the top of the nation. It's probably not already there. They're getting close. The light rail ridership is a concern. My recommendation would be to establish a light rail ridership task force to get down to the bottom of what the issues are there and how that can be addressed. And last but not least, I'd like to bring to your attention that the ridership figures for the two bus stations are completely missing from the report. Thank you.
And just to let you know, I think he's referring to, I do have the March General Manager's CEO report, includes some of our core metrics as well as some of the topics and observances that the agency has this month. Thank you.
We still have one more, Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Blair, go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you, Blair Beekman. Thank you for seeing my hand. I wanted to quickly comment as a factoid. The City of Long Beach has developed plans to pay their tourism industry workers a really good living wage salary. It's important. Long Beach, they do some pretty interesting progressive practices, including tech accountability. Good luck in going to the Long Beach convention process, what you can learn from their city and what you can bring back to the South Bay. I think there can be good lessons there. I think tech accountability can help a lot in the future of tourism in the South Bay. If we do it well, people want to come here to see openness and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, we still have one more.
Oh, no problem. Go ahead, please.
Truman, go ahead, please, and begin speaking.
Yeah, I'm here. My comment is actually regarding a bus stop that I've been campaigning for, a bench being installed for many months now to VTA. The bus stop is the Cohen-Clintonia bus stop for the 64A bus line. I know VTA, for instance, has been trying to, trying to interact with the public and, get people involved and that sort of thing. But this particular bus bench, I've tried to get it installed. I've taken that bus for many years, and there's just no result on it, and it's a very frustrating thing. So I'd like to encourage the VTA board or whoever is responsible to get a bus bench installed at Cohen-Clintonia for the 64A bus line. Anyways, best.
And that ends public comment.
Thank you. That's all we have?
Yes.
I don't have a chairperson's report tonight for item 5.3, but we do have 5.3.8, which is to approve the revised committee appointments for 2025. Thank you to my colleagues for your cooperation as we sort out, I filled out a couple last committees and updated those. Really excited to get this rolling for the year. I'll just check real quickly if there are any requests to speak for this item. Okay, if not, first, any questions? You see it on the screen. Any questions or comments from colleagues? If not, I'll ask for a motion and a second to approve the revised appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Turner and Foley, can we have the roll, please, clerk?
Yes. I just wanted to note for the record, too, that Vice Chair Mahan has joined us. Abekoga?
Aye.
Arenas?
Yes.
Thank you. Candelas? Absent. Cohen?
Aye.
Cohen, yes. Foley?
Aye.
Thank you. Kamei?
Aye.
Montano? Montano, yes. Sell?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Weinberg?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mahan?
Aye.
Chairperson Lopez?
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion passed.
Thanks so much. And just want to make share a couple of other items with regards to committees. I've appointed board member Abekoga and ex officio board member BART to serve with me on the Palo Alto University Avenue Mobility Hub ad hoc committee. And I will also be serving with board member Jane, vice chair Mahan, and alternate board member Young on the VTA BART joint committee. Finally, while the work continues, the VTA ad hoc grade separation committee has been decommissioned. With that takes us to 5.4, which is our state legislative update, and this will be introduced by Beverly Green, our Chief Government Affairs Officer.
Good afternoon, board directors. Am I on? Good afternoon, board directors. As you know, we are at the beginning of a new legislative session, and as such, I have asked our advocates to come and give us an update of what is going on with the state of California. So we have Delaney Hunter to my far left. She is the founder of Seaside Advocacy. You know her well. She has represented VTA since 1991. She's worked on BART to Silicon Valley 1 and 2 since the conceptual stages of that project. She's helped to ensure additional TIRSIP money for this project. She has shepherded many VTA-sponsored bills, including AB 2812, job order contract, the procurement threshold bill, and many others. She's experienced in transportation and transit issues, and she has worked on these issues for more than 30 years. To my immediate left is McKinley Thompson Morley. She just joined Seaside, actually 2 years ago. She previously served as staff for 2 state senators and in corporate government affairs roles. So with that, I would ask Delaney to start with an update with the state of California.
Good evening, members. It's a pleasure to be here, and we're proud to continue to represent VTA all these years. McKinley and I are going to share our duties this evening, so I'll start with her on our next slide, titled 2025 Legislature Composition.
Yes, perfect. So in the year 2025, of course, we had a new wave of legislators, in fact, 37 new legislators in the California State Legislature. That included 24 in the Assembly, which also includes a new member to our VTA delegation, Assemblymember Patrick Ahrens, as well as 13 new members in the Senate. In exciting news, the California State Senate actually reached gender parity for the first time in its history, which is thrilling. And across the legislature, women have nearly reached parity, now holding 59 of the total 120 seats across the Assembly and Senate. Last, the Democrats continue to hold supermajorities in both the Assembly and Senate, but this year Republicans did pick up seats, 1 in the Senate and 2 in the Assembly. I will now hand it over to Delaney to talk about our delegation.
Next slide, please. VTA continues to enjoy key positions within our delegation at leadership levels. This includes, obviously, our former member of our board, Senator Dave Cortese, who is the chair of the Senate Transportation Committee and the committee that probably does the most work for VTA-related legislative items. In addition, Senator Aisha Wahab chairs Senate Housing. Obviously, that is a key item for us as we work on TOD and affordable housing issues. And obviously, the Assembly Speaker hails from part of our county, which we're very proud of. In addition, many members of our delegation continue to represent us through a variety of different committees, including things in the budget and policy arena. So you'll also see on the next slide a rundown of those other key committee memberships. We are very, very lucky that our delegation is active on the issues that matter most to us and plays key roles throughout those committee memberships, which has led to us being able to be very active and successful when moving legislation and policy and budget items.
Next slide, please. Okay, so really quickly, you'll see behind you the legislative calendar. We have already seen the bill intro deadline pass and are now in a holding pattern as we wait to see spot or placeholder bills and what legislators decide to put in them. It is the beginning of the committee season, so obviously bills are beginning to be heard across committees, but alongside that, budget hearings have also began. We can expect to see changes in the governor's initial January proposal in the May revise, and then the budget will need to be passed by the June 15th deadline. The legislative session runs concurrently to the budget process but does not end until early September, so we'll see what bills live and pass or die in committee or approves by September 12th, and the governor will have 1 month, so until October 12th, to sign or veto legislation. Next slide, please.
As we started the legislative session, we were dealing with sort of plans for what was sort of going to be laid out in 25, and obviously other things took over. Most importantly, the fires in LA County that exploded in January have changed the focus, not only for the LA delegation, but for the legislature as a whole. Obviously, the loss of 11,000 homes and businesses and the loss of life within that county have refocused the issues of wildfire, vegetation management, homeowners insurance. Those sort of rose back to the top of the issues that the legislature has to deal with. There are currently probably about 70 bills that deal with wildfire in some way, shape, or form. That, unfortunately, has also led to needing very vast budget resources to help for things like replacement housing and temporary housing and shelter, just the replacement of durable goods and food. So that has been a key focus of the legislature as we started the year. Obviously, the other thing that has been driving issues in California is the legislature and the governor's response to the Trump administration sort of calling for items to be cut, sort of pulling back on federal commitments to things around energy, student debt, a variety of issues. The legislature and the governor did call and take action early on to set up the Attorney General of the state of California to prepare for potential lawsuits. In the last Trump administration, there were 190 lawsuits filed against the federal government by California. We expect something similar in the next 4 years. The ongoing issue of whether or not the funds that we so carefully and so quietly, not so quietly, received through the IRA or IIJA remain in a big question. And so I think we continue to try to understand what the impacts may be to California on a go-forward basis if those funds don't actually materialize, and whether or not California will need to try to backfill them. That obviously is driving a big hole, an unknown in the budget. The good news is that tax receipts so far have been above estimates, at least for the first part of this year. We may see a little dip. The stock market didn't do great at the beginning of this week, and that is a direct tie-in to the way that California's state budget is managed. So this is a watch and see. The Legislative Analyst's Office, I think, put it best, which is inflation is stubborn and it's not going away, and that is driving problems in our budget. Is even though revenues may be healthy, the costs continue to rise, and so we're not keeping those two things at pace and managing our ability. That is actually also driving additional action in the legislature, because that also is leading to the affordability crisis that I think we as Californians are seeing across all goods: gasoline, housing, the price of eggs, which I hear a whole lot about from my family. Just the basics of trying to survive in California, given the inflationary nature of what's happening for all goods, is driving a lot of conversation in Sacramento about how to manage those, especially if things continue down the path with the Trump administration and dollars get pulled back. To our priorities. Next slide, please. We are carefully tracking, along with all of our colleagues in the transit and transportation industry, the reauthorization of the Cap and Trade program. Cap and Trade generates money through the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, which does help fund transit both on the capital and operations side. That authorization only runs till 2030. Maybe seem counterintuitive that we'd start now, but because of the way that the market operates, it is causing a little bit of a distortion in that there isn't certainty about the ongoing nature of the Cap and Trade program. We do believe the legislature is likely to take that program up in 25 or early 26 to try to provide that certainty to the market. So we are working hard to ensure that we, one, maintain at very least the commitments that we have currently for transit, and two, to the extent possible, expand those, as we know that the transportation sector is a big driver of greenhouse gas emissions and probably where we need to do the most work in the near term and midterm. In addition, we work hard to ensure that we can find and keep funds for BART Phase 2. It's top of mind. It's the thing I sort of say, hi, I'm here representing VTA, and can I talk to you about BART? So that always is top of mind for us, and we're working hard to manage that through the legislative process as well as an agency. Obviously, as has been mentioned, we do have special events coming to the region in 2026. We're working alongside our friends at the host committee and with our friends in Los Angeles to come up with innovative ways to manage those costs, both for the transportation needs and obviously with our friends in the public safety space. And lastly, in the transportation funding space, we continue to work with our partners around ongoing and sustainable needs for transportation and transit ops. This has continually been a problem in the recent years, but just continually as we've thought about how to operate new systems and continue to operate the systems that we've always had. So we're looking at different ways of thinking about that, whether it's reforming the way that the TDA Act works or other operations. I think we're trying to think through how do we continue to sustainably fund transit operations. We are also working hard this year in developing key transportation and housing policies for next year. Legislature in California runs on a 2-year session, so we can obviously do bills early on in 2026. And so we're working with our real estate team and the folks that are working on DEARDON to think about what we might be doing legislatively in those fronts. And then lastly, obviously, we continue to work with our partners around the Bay around a regional measure and a revenue measure, both here at home, to think about how to continue to fund our transportation needs in Santa Clara County and around the Bay Area. And with that, I will move on, again, more to our favorite project, BART. We are working with our grants team to support efforts with applications that are currently pending before the state. We are also coordinating with our partners at the California Transit Association and other transportation groups to think about how we might find additional funding, both for the capital and operations side. We are working hard with the governor's office and his agencies to ensure the importance of the project and getting the necessary revenues we need to ensure that there is a full funding plan so that we can garner the federal work. And then we are constantly keeping our delegation up to date about the efforts that we're undertaking to curb costs, but also find those precious dollars. I think I joke about looking at couch cushions. I'm doing it every day. So, with that, I will wrap, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you so much. I'll first open public comment and see if there's anyone wishing to speak.
There are none, Chair.
Thank you. I'll close public comment. And are there any board members who wish to speak or have questions on this item? No? If not, thank you so much for the presentation. Really
pleasure.
appreciate you coming here today.
Thank you.
Thank you
And
so
this
much.
is an information item.
Thank you.
So that will bring us to the consent agenda, which is item 6.1 through 6.17. I note that 6.6 has been pulled, so we'll take that up after we vote on the rest of the consent items. Do we have any member of the public who actually? Any abstentions or recusals on any of these items? No? Do you have any members of the public wishing to speak?
Yes,
Yeah.
Chair. Blair, go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Hi, Blair Beekman. To speak to the Gillig item issues, equipment and stuff. Thank you. Gillig is always a really trusted name and company that, thank you for working with them and have this contract process work well. About California State Auditor financial oversight issues and information item 6.9, and kind of related to the items you were just talking about. You know, VTA is doing a good job with their auditing, good job with finances. I'm just worried that yourselves as a policy board, when you describe your policies in the public meeting process, that you're not clear and accountable enough. You speak in a language that you can give a nod and a wink to each other and understand what you're talking about, but the public does not. You have voted for measures about the future of, you're ending grade separation thing. What does the public understand about that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, we still have one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Next speaker, Roland, go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to briefly touch on I would like to briefly touch on 6.5, 6.8, and 6.10. On 6.5, I've been a strong advocate for converting HOV lanes to express lanes where it makes sense. Having said that, dumping more traffic into the PM southbound bottleneck north of Morgan Hill does not make sense. So I urge the board to direct staff to defer this project until the 101 southbound HOV lane has been extended to Gilroy and preferably all the way down to the Highway 25 interchange. On 6.8 and 6.10, which are BART BSVI contracts, I will follow up with the BSVI Oversight Committee in writing over the weekend. Thank you.
That ends public comment.
Thank you. I'll close public comment. And with that, I'll ask for a motion and a second to approve consent items 6.1 through 6.5 and 6.7 through 6.17.
So moved.
Foley and Kamei, can we get the roll, please?
Abekoga?
Aye.
Arenas?
Yes.
Thank you. Candelas is absent. Cohen?
Aye.
Foley?
Aye.
Kamei?
Aye.
Montano? Sell?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Weinberg?
Yes.
Mahan?
Aye.
Chair Lopez?
Yes.
Motion passed, Chair.
Thank you. And that takes us to item 6.6. And I see our Deputy General Manager coming up for this one.
Oh, is that first?
6.6 is the item
cover
that had been
6.6 right
pulled,
now.
so I
Sorry
think
about that, yeah.
Nani, who is,
Thank you. Nani Singh?
Thank you. Good evening, respected board members. I'm Noni Singh, the interim chief operating officer of VTA. With me, I have our operations managers, Jay Petty and Adam Berger. And we are here for item 6.6, requesting approval from the board for the purchase of buses to replace our aging fleet. With us, now starting Jay Petty.
Okay. Good evening, distinguished board directors, VTA executives, and citizens of Santa Clara County. My name is Jay Petty, and I'm the manager for vehicle engineering, quality assurance, and warranty. Today, I'm presenting Board Memo 9270, requesting the board's final approval to enter into a contract with Gillig LLC for the procurement of 35 electric buses and an option of 35 diesel hybrid electric buses. The project value for this is approximately $90 million and is allocated on the fiscal year 2022 capital projects, P1175. It's 80% funded through federal grants, 20% funded through VTA. In October of 2022, the Board of Directors authorized the staff to enter into a competitive negotiated process to advertise an RFP for the purchase of 35 electric buses and 35 diesel low-floor buses. VTA released the initial RFP for the 35 buses with the option of the 35 hybrid electric buses. The staff's recommendation is to move forward with the option of purchasing the electric buses in addition to the 35 diesel hybrid buses. The negotiated procurement process required potential responders to submit proposals that included both technical and price proposals. We received proposals from New Flyer and Gillig. The technical proposals were both determined to be responsive and responsible, with Gillig LLC most closely documenting adherence to VTA specifications. The technical evaluation team of VTA staff, including engineers, operators, mechanics, warranty, and quality assurance personnel, conducted a detailed analysis of the technical proposal. Based on technical questions raised by the evaluation committee, VTA requested clarifications from the respondents to provide further details and backup documentation to support their proposals. This technical review process enabled VTA to get proposals that included passenger and operator standardizations with our current buses, such as identical operator barriers, adjustable pedals, enhanced power steering, wide exit doors for easy bike access. It also focused on considerations of lowest overall cost of ownership and life of the vehicle. Based on the technical evaluations, the negotiations, reference checks, VTA provided each proposer with the requirements for the final bus configuration and invited them to provide their best and final offer. The selection committee then reviewed the best and final offer and selected Gillig LLC as having the best overall proposal. Furthermore, Gillig LLC had the lowest contract price. The current contract is in draft form and will not be signed until the board has given approval for the, based on the board memo 9270. The Buy America compliant pre-audit has been completed and is determined that the build will meet the Buy American compliance requirements. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. And I know we have a director wishing to speak. I will open public comment first because we have a comment card on this. Do we have Harry Neal?
Good evening. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I have made this comment before, and I will make it again. I think it is very important that for our new buses, we have a bit more of an exciting color scheme to them, because I think that our current ones, our current buses are a very nice enough, but a bit bland color scheme of white as a base color with some blue accents. It's almost like a default for an American transit agency. The previous electric buses that we had, the Proterras, even though they were built out of tinfoil and paper mache, they had quite a nice color scheme. And even just using that color scheme for these new buses would be a great improvement. But you know, something more creative, something more exciting than a white with blue accents like every American transit agency does. So highly encourage that, and I look forward to riding these new buses once they're in service. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have online comments as well. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Roland, you may begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. So very briefly, I would like to commend staff for selecting Gillig over New Flyer, because New Flyer is a Canadian company, and as things stand, we would be looking at a 25% tariff over and above the the proposed contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Blair. Go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Well, Beekman, I'm very sorry my hand is up. I didn't mean to have it up. Gillig is a very trusted company. There's only one or two left, New Flyer and Gillig, I think. Nice comments from Roland to consider. Good luck in what we can decide between the two, and trying to build a future of bus lines that can be dependable. Good luck how we can work on that together. Thank you.
That's the last speaker, sir.
Thank you. I'll close public comment and go to Director Turner.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I just have some questions. You know, when we talked about the zero-emission bus blueprint, I had a lot of questions about it. Then I still have questions and concerns about safety and reliability. And so a number of the questions I have for you tonight really fall into that category. So thank you for taking my questions tonight. We are looking at a $95 million price tag for what you just described. I just want to confirm that does that include the 35 hybrid buses, as well as the option for 35 others?
Yes, sir. That is the total price of the contract for all 70 buses, the training program, the spare parts package, training aids, warranty documentations, everything.
Okay, very good. Thank you. What's the expected life of the electric buses?
So the electric buses is just like any other bus in that aspect. The expected life is a minimum of 12 years. There's a lot of questions about battery. We first started buying our buses that had batteries, the Gillig hybrids, back in 2010. We reached out to a lot of our fellow agencies, asked them for input, how long were they getting on their batteries before we would need to start doing rebuilds and overhauls. We were actually impressed at how much we exceeded their estimates. Here in Silicon Valley, we're blessed to be in a climate that is fortunate for a bus duty cycle. We don't have hills, we don't have extreme cold, and our batteries we still have batteries in our buses from 2010. So the initial estimate was 6 to 7 years. So we were expecting to be replacing those batteries in 2016 and 17. We have replaced some, but many of them are still running today.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Now, California has abandoned their diesel truck ban and the other clean air rules, and the Trump administration has signed an executive order ending the electric vehicle mandate. How does this affect CARB's mandate?
So there are two regulations from CARB to keep track of here. There's the Innovative Clean Transit Regulation that pertains to a zero-emission fleet transition, bus fleet transition. There is the Advanced Clean Fleets Regulation that pertains to our paratransit fleet and our non-revenue vehicles. It's the latter one that the state of California opted not to pursue a waiver request with the EPA. The former, relating to our buses, doesn't require a waiver to enforce, and CARB is treating that unchanged based on the new presidential administration.
So we're still under that 2040 timeline,
Correct.
Is that correct? And so this is not an opportunity, we have no chance of pushing back on that 2040 timeline, is that correct, that deadline?
So I can say that I have been in touch with CARB, and they have actually hired a third-party consultancy to evaluate the feasibility of their 2040 goal. And they'll be determining whether they want to abandon it, extend it, push it out, or maybe move it forward. I don't know at this point, but they have their concerns about it as well with the climate change.
I'll add that per the 2018 regulation, for each increase in purchasing requirement, we're currently at 25, the next one would be 50% in 2026. CARB is required to do an assessment to see whether the state is ready for that next jump. Given the unexpectedly high costs of these vehicles, the high cost for hydrogen fuel specifically, and also the low likelihood of federal funding coming through for this, it may be a window in time to reassess what a workable and realistic strategy or regulation looks like. We need to do some strategizing with our peer agencies in the Bay Area to figure out what sort of message we want to send to CARB on this.
And I will say, even for these 35, we have had to receive an exemption from CARB to even purchase these 35 diesel hybrids, which for us this year, it was a 50-50. We're buying 35 electric zero emissions, 35 diesel, even though the requirement's 25.
Okay, good, thank you. The new electric infrastructure at the Cerrone Yard is expected to be activated in mid-2026. And we know very few projects like this really do get completed on time. What's the plan if there is a delay in the schedule?
So there already has been delays. That's kind of what's pushed us to the June of 2026. I work directly with our construction team, and we've literally timed our bus procurements to coincide with the infrastructure installment and completion. Should something unforeseen happen, we're lucky enough to already have some charging infrastructure on that site from our Proterra procurements that we would still be able to use the buses in service utilizing our existing infrastructure until they're able to wrap up the microgrid project.
Okay, very good, thank you. The memorandum in the packet states that the charging stations will provide enough power to fully charge 34 buses overnight. But what happens if there's a power outage of 2 to 6 hours in that time frame? How will this affect the charging of the 34 buses?
So in the microgrid, not every bus will be charging all at the same time. So even if there is a power save for 2 hours, it may mess up the order in which it's charged, but it doesn't mean not all the buses will be charged. However, we are exploring the option of a generator that would kick in the event that there is a power outage, and obviously in the middle of the night, there's no solar panel generation, to where the buses are actually being charged off of Tesla megapacks. So the generator would charge the megapacks, the megapacks would still be able to charge the buses.
Very good, thank you. And what's the range of the electric buses? Are they going to last all day? Will they make it down to Gilroy to pick up Mayor Bozo? Or are they going to have to drop them off in South San Jose? What is that going to look like?
Are you hoping Mayor Bozo gets stuck? Or
Yeah,
what?
yeah, that's right. That's right.
No, we intentionally designed a very robust electric bus. There are different options that you can get. We have gone with the most battery packs that you can legally go with in California to meet the weight requirements. So these buses are expected to have anywhere from 200 to 250 mile range, which handles pretty much all of VTA's short and medium routes. The longer runs would still be catered to with the diesel hybrid electric.
At some point, though, the diesel buses will eventually go away. And
correct.
And so when that occurs, how do we,
So on our current fleet replacement plan, the only option right now, zero emission wise, for longer range, if technology doesn't improve on the electric side. 5 years ago, you couldn't get a bus that was going to go, electric bus that could go 150. Now we're talking 250. But if the electric doesn't change, the goal is in 2030, our first fuel cell electric would go online to be built. And those right now are running 300 plus miles, which would serve all of VTA's lines.
Okay, thank you. According to, the memorandum, VTAs must consider the possibility that new electric bus designs may continue to experience the range problems and infrastructure delays that have hampered their widespread deployment to this point. With that said, what are we, or why are we being asked to approve a $95 million price tag for vehicles we don't have 100% confidence in?
So this project got started all the way back in 2021, 2022, and there were a lot of those problems then. Even Proterra started in 2017, 2019, we were experiencing problems. Technology, again, like I say, has advanced. Gillig is on their version 3 of their hybrid bus. One of the requirements is we had them bring one of their demo buses down that they owned. That was 2 years old, had over 40,000 miles. They provided with us their maintenance records, their downtimes. Even while we did the test drive, we hooked up our laptops and garnered data from the drives themselves. And we drove it pretty aggressive. And in 45 minutes, climbing hills, stopping at the bottom of the hill, accelerating as hard as possible to the top of the hill, we used 6% of the battery.
Okay. And is there another transportation agency using these very same electric buses? And what is their feedback and what problems, if any, are they experiencing?
Yes, sir. That was part of our technical evaluation as well as our selection team evaluation. Gillig provided us, Gillig and New Flyer both provided us with references of who they've sold these vehicles to. We reached out to them, asked them what kind of downtime, what kind of problems they were experiencing, and I have full confidence in these buses.
Okay, good, thank you. The backup plan, should we experience range problems and/or delays in infrastructure, is to turn to fuel cell buses, and that while they may have much better range, still have substantial costs and operational challenges. Why are we moving forward with this major expense to purchase hydrogen cell buses when we know the hydrogen cell technology does not meet the standards worthy of pursuing?
So the backup plan that we proposed in the ZEB blueprint was to continue with hybrid diesel buses, a technology that's more affordable, that we're more familiar with, that we have confidence in, that we can operate day in and day out. We decided that we do not want to move forward with our transition if it's going to cause financial hardship to the agency or undermine the quantity or quality of transit service that we're able to put out each day. We are facing also funding constraints for the capital infrastructure side of this. So I think our progress will be made as we are confident in the technology and as we are able to piece together the funding to pay for the infrastructure and the new buses. So we recognize that may mean that we don't meet the 2040 goal. We're not the only agency that's undertaking this strategy. We're going to be careful, but also be flexible to see how things change in the future.
Okay. Do we have assurances from PG&E, this is my last question, Chair, do we have assurances from PG&E that they'll be able to commit to and fulfill their part of the infrastructure project?
We do not, same as all the other Northern California transit agencies. We have to assemble the funding for the project, do some design on the project such that the precise electrical capacity need is known before we can go to PG&E and say, we want this amount of electricity at this particular date. At that point, they will do a site assessment for us and tell us whether that electricity is available. We can try to look into the future by looking at maps that PG&E makes available that show the existing electrical capacity by site, but they tell us, don't fully trust those. They're not updated that often, and their customers are always evolving in how much electricity they need. So capacity that exists today may not be there in 5 years when we go to them to request it. Some agencies have had to make quite a pivot when this happens, like burn natural gas on their site to create the electricity to operate their fleet. So this is a risk that we face, but we're not the only agency facing it.
And if I'm sorry, Chair, a few more questions now that I heard that. If we were in that position, how would we handle that? Would we be burning natural gas? And when natural gas suddenly gets outlawed, what do we do then?
This is a good question. We may just not be able to make progress in our transition, or Jay?
I can chime in a little bit. So one of the things is we are working with PG&E on our current project at Cerrone with the microgrid and having a dedicated source for that. So when we're talking about the future, yeah, there's that question. Every project's going to be a question on its own. One of the things we're looking at when I mentioned that generator for charging those batteries. I've been in communications with AC Transit, and they're actually doing the front research on this, but we're looking at a linear generator that can charge those batteries that will actually run off of hydrogen. So it won't be a diesel vehicle or diesel generator polluting the air to charge our electric buses. It would be a clean energy source that's charging those batteries to charge our electric buses.
Okay, and then real quickly, I heard you say that the 80% of the funding would come from a federal grant.
Yes, sir.
And so that's about 72 million, if I'm doing my math right, and so about 18 million would be coming out of VTA. And,
Yes, sir.
and out of where in VTA?
So that was all part of a capital project that's already been submitted, and the funding's already been secured under project 1175.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Director Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. First, the funding for this particular project is secured and available. I mean, there's
sir.
been, and I think there's been some conflation of two issues in this conversation, the questions that were asked about what we can support in this current purchase versus what we may have to think about as we make further purchases in the future to reach the 2040 goal. But there's not as much concern on risk for this purchase of 35 electric buses. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. And this is clearly not the time for us to slow down our commitment to reducing carbon in our fleet. I'm very excited that we will be approaching this. Many cities around the state or agencies around the state are running electric buses at this time. In fact, last month when I was in, actually maybe it was earlier this month, I was in Southern California in Rancho Cucamonga, and I saw their electric fire truck. They're one of 3 agencies in the country that now has electric fire trucks, which they actually say run better, especially in the hills and the environments where they need fire trucks to go, and have great range and can charge very quickly. So the technology is improving incredibly, and I think we ought to be moving forward. So I'm going to move approval of this item.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Who? With the second?
Arenas.
Okay. Can we get can we have the roll, please?
I'm sorry, Chair, may I ask some questions before the motion is called?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think it was very interesting. Just a few questions that I have. In the event that tariffs become a reality and Gillig says tariffs have made it such that we can't deliver the buses at the prices that we said we were going to deliver them, will the contract that we have with Gillig somehow take that into consideration? Are there outs if suddenly the buses become much more expensive than we thought?
Yes, sir. That was from the time of the initiation of the tariffs. That's been one of the concerns. So we actually added to our contingency contract that we would work with Gillig to absorb the cost of those tariffs, because it does increase the cost of the part. The parts that are on the bus, for the most part, it's the batteries of the electric buses and on the hybrid buses, because all of those come from overseas. However, the understanding is they must show us actual documentation showing the cost. They cannot profit from the tariffs. And they, in the language, it also understood that should the cost exceed what our current budget is, that reduction would take place in purchasing less diesel hybrids. We would still secure our 35 electric buses, but instead of possibly 35 hybrid buses, it would be 30 hybrid buses to offset the cost of those tariffs.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'm very happy about the approach that you're taking with respect to the contingency of tariffs affecting the price. But I think I heard you say that since we're authorizing up to $92 million, if the electric buses are going to cost more, we can go ahead and still purchase those buses. It just means that we'll have less money to buy hybrid buses if that's what we want.
Correct, because that's the option.
Okay, so if suddenly the electric buses become significantly more expensive because of the tariffs, you're saying that it's not going to come back to the board? It's just going to be, you're just going to take money out of that up to $2 million authorization?
In the contract, we just didn't want to overrun our budget.
Okay.
But obviously, if this was that dramatic, it's something that we would come back to the board and address.
Thank you, I appreciate that reassurance. And then will the board be notified if it turns out that there are cost adjustments because of tariffs, whether or not it comes back for approval?
Absolutely. I assume it would probably, we would take it to the SSTP&O first, and then all the board members would be notified as well.
Thank you. And then my last question is, excuse me, my last question is, are there any assurances that Gillig is going to continue to make spare parts for the expected life of the buses, not just their expected life, but our expected life of the buses?
Gillig is required per contract to make those parts for the full 12 years of the determined life of the bus. Even if battery technology changes in 5 years, they still have to provide battery technology that will work on our buses for the full 12. Now, they may upgrade our batteries to a new technology, but it would work on our bus as is.
Okay. Thank you very much. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. We have a couple questions from the Vice Chair.
Thanks, Chair, and I'll be super quick. Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate Member Turner's thoughtful questions. I think it's important that we understand risks, and I think those were very thorough and educational questions. Agree with Member Cohen. I think we should move forward with this purchase, particularly given the funding being secured. That was one of the questions I had. With this administration, I want to make sure we're very clear about what secured means. I assume the money's not in our bank account yet. This is a reimbursement, and are we confident? I just want to make sure we are not going to be left holding the bag.
I actually had our grants department double check and make sure that these grants can't be affected by that. And kudos to my predecessor. He sort of went and found little monies from different grants that were about to expire, was able to get extensions and assimilate those to be able to do this purchase.
Right. But when you say secured, I mean, are we in possession of the money, or are we purchasing and asking for a reimbursement from the federal government? I'm surprised I have to ask this question, but I just feel that I have to.
I'm not real an expert on the grants, but I was told that we have secured the money.
Yes, so the money has been allocated to us. Right now, there's not a threat on the allocations at this point. We hope not. And so it is on a reimbursement basis. Most of the time, I can't say forever, if there's a contract that's been awarded, the money is moving forward and you're under reimbursement, they don't stop that.
Okay.
But I'm never going to say never. I don't
Right.
know. But yes, that money is but the federal government typically is on a reimbursement basis.
The FTA did say that we had to spend this money before December 31st, 2026.
Okay, and you heard that from this FTA during this administration?
We actually have that in writing.
From this administration? This
from
year?
FTA.
Okay.
Not from
this year.
I
Might want to get that letter again, but I'm glad to hear that. Evelyn, you feel confident here that we have recourse? Yes. Okay, great. I didn't think I would have to ask, but I feel a duty to ask. And then look, I appreciate Member Turner's questions. I have concern about a different technological risk to the agency, which is making capital investments that for which we may get outcompeted by other emerging technologies in the marketplace. Now, if the bus's lifespan is only 12 years, maybe this is less of a risk, but I worry about a private firm buying BYD shuttles at a fraction of the cost that are electric and autonomous in 5 years, and then we're running a non-cost competitive but similar service. And I'm wondering, I understand there's a lot of, angst around AI and autonomy, and we need to have a just transition, and there's a whole long conversation to have there, but what is Gillig telling us about where this technology is going? And again, if the bus is 12 years, maybe it's less of a concern than if we think we're going to run it for 20, but are we looking at those trends?
So first, I want to say we have an extremely rigorous maintenance and preventive maintenance program at VTA. We currently have buses out on the road right now that's been out there for 25 years.
Okay, so this may be relevant for these buses.
Well over 1 million miles. And I don't think our maintenance program is going to let up any. We're going to still have that rigorous program. So I think these buses will last much longer than 12 years. As far as the autonomous buses, I haven't really had that conversation with Gillig as far as where they're going with it. Not really my area of expertise.
Okay.
I do know about BYD buses, though, so I would much rather get on a Gillig bus or a New Flyer bus than a BYD bus, whether there's a driver there or not.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, I don't think you should hold up this purchase, and I'll stop there, but I think we as an agency need to really grapple with this change. There's just a lot of innovation happening in this space, and we need to grapple with what the competitive landscape looks like and make sure we're positioned to compete, frankly. We're competing for people's time and money in terms of how they get around, how they get from point A to point B. And there's just a lot changing right now. But anyway, I just wanted to raise that for food for thought. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Director Sell? And then we do have a motion on the floor, and I think we want to try and get to the roll.
Okay. I just wanted to thank for polling this. I know with Caltrain's electric trains, they're heavily popular. They increase riderships, and it's less pollution. And in light of the many wildfires happening in California and in the United States, I think this is a great move to move towards electric. And so I wanted to thank you for that. And I was just wondering, since it's electric, to identify it being electric and new technology, would you consider a color scheme to reflect the new technology? Just as an aside. You'll think about that.
So
Yeah.
I don't really have any say
Okay.
on that. So I'll defer to our marketing team and the general
Okay,
manager.
sounds
and,
great.
you know, we can paint it fluorescent green if that's what they
Okay.
want, you know.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Clerk, could we have the roll, please?
Yes, Chair. Abekoga,
Aye.
Arenas,
Yes.
Candelas is absent. Cohen,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Kamei. Kamei, yes. Montano? Montano, yes. Sell?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Weinberg? Yes. Mahan?
Aye.
Chair Lopez?
Aye.
Motion passed, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone, for the robust discussion. Now we're going to bring Greg Richardson up. And this is for, this is an action item, 7.1, issuance of 1976 sales tax revenue bonds. And we will also have Mike Smith, Finance, Debt, and Investment Manager.
Okay, good evening, Board. I'm just going to say hi, and I'm going to turn it over to Michael Smith, so he'll walk you through this particular item. So take it away, Mike.
Okay, I'm Mike Smith. So this item adopts a resolution. Let's see, let's move on to the, let's get the clicker this time. So this item adopts a resolution that approves the issuance of the $160 million of bonds secured by the 1976 sales tax to finance the acquisition of the building at 488 Almaden in San Jose to serve as VTA's new headquarters facility, and to fund the acquisition of the building at 70 North 2nd Street in San Jose to serve as VTA's Transit Security Operations Center. The bonds will also fund the costs of various renovations and upgrades that make the building ready for VTA to move in, and will fund $25 million to be used to provide amenities at the yards, as well as some safety and security improvements, and will fund issuance and finance costs. The bonds will be issued with a 30-year maturity, with repayment secured by the VTA 76 sales tax, which provides funding to the transit fund. Debt service costs to the transit fund, currently estimated to be $10.7 million per year, are anticipated to be reimbursed from the lease revenues earned by the Transit-Oriented Development Fund. Let's go to bond proceeds. Because we intend to lease the excess floors of 488 Almaden to tenants which will likely be private companies, we need to issue taxable bonds for the portion of costs related to the private use, currently estimated to be around 35 to 40% of the financing amount. To provide flexibility to shift the balance between taxable and tax-exempt financing, we'll issue variable rate demand bonds, or VRDBs. If we needed to change the balance of taxable to tax-exempt financing, the VRDBs allow us to do that by providing much greater flexibility to call the bonds compared to fixed-rate bonds, which typically are not callable for 10 years. VTA's not new to VRDBs. We issued just over $400 million of VRDBs in 2008 and finally retired the last of them in 2023. They're a product that works well for what we currently need. VRDBs are a long-term financing product that resets the interest rate weekly or daily, depending on the mode selected by VTA. We've retained Bank of America Securities and JP Morgan Securities to remarket the bonds on the weekly or daily basis. And if investors want to sell their bonds, they're allowed to tender their bonds to the bond trustee on 7 days' notice. If the bonds are not able to be remarketed within the 7 days, a liquidity facility provider, Sumitomo Mitsui Bank, will be available to purchase the bonds from the current owner. In addition to offering flexibility to be called, VRDBs have historically produced lower interest rates compared to fixed-rate bonds. The graph should, let's see, let's advance, there we go. The graph shows annual averages. I should point out that the SIFMA listed on the graph is an index of tax-exempt variable rate demand bonds, and the LIBOR history listed there is indicative of the taxable VRDB rates we'll experience. The two most recent years shown at the right, fiscal 2023 and 2024, resulted from a period of high inflation that is largely moderated, and higher rates shown to the left resulted from the 2008 financial crisis and quickly resolved when the Federal Reserve stepped in with liquidity support. Well, it does not show on the chart annual averages. The weekly interest rates for tax-exempt California VRDBs was an attractive 1.53% last week on February 27th, and the weekly taxable rate at that time was 4.36%. This slide shows VTA's outstanding debt. The 1976 sales tax has a low $45 million of debt outstanding. These bonds will be fully retired June 1 of 2028 and have annual debt service of about $21 million. The 2000A bonds do not affect the proposed transaction, but are shown here just for reference. Next steps. So these are our next steps, primarily to receive our credit ratings and finalize the preliminary official statement, which is our disclosure document, sometimes similar to a prospectus, I should say. And then we'll begin outreach to investors prior to pricing and delivering the bonds. Go to the recommendation. So the recommendation is to approve this item, which will approve the bond documents and authorize the issuance of the bonds. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much. Let's go first to see if we have any public comment for this item.
Yes, Blair, go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for this item. A really interesting approach. You're talking about bond measure sales tax issues from 1976, still in effect, is my understanding. Thank you. Oakland, San Diego, yourselves, you're all talking about sales tax increase issues, to use sales tax as a revenue measure for local cities. I don't understand fully why that is. I think taking property tax income, adjusting rates, just a minuscule amount, I think could be a lot of help that I hope we can be able to more talk about in the future. This is a really good step and a really good approach how you're talking about it. I mean, San Diego and Oakland, they want to create new sales tax bond measures. You guys are talking about old ones, and that's smart. That's kind of nice. I think that's my understanding of this. So thank you for your work on this item and your approach.
That's the end of the public comment.
Thank you. Closing public comment. Colleagues, are there any questions or comments for staff? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Turner and Self. Can we have the roll, please?
Abekoga,
Aye.
Arenas,
Yes.
Candelas is absent, Cohen,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Kamei, Montano. Montano is yes. Sell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Weinberg. Yes. Mahan.
Aye.
Chair Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passed, Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you to our presenters. That takes us to 7.2, which is to adopt a resolution amending the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority permit fee schedule. And we'll have Suja Prasad, Technical Services Group Manager, and Casey Moto, Chief Engineering Program Delivery Officer.
Hello. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Casey Moto, Chief Engineering Program Delivery Officer, and I have Suja Prasad here to present this item.
Good evening, Chair Lopez and members of the VTA board. I'm Suja Prasad, Technical Services Group Manager for the Engineering and Program Delivery Division. The item before you is a request for board approval to amend the VTA permit fee schedule. The permit fees are collected from entities who wish to work or construct on or near a VTA facility or property. There are primarily two types of permits: construction access permit and restricted access permits. The fee schedule was adjusted to reflect the current FY25 VTA labor rates and the current Caltrans equipment rates. This item was presented at the Administration and Finance Committee last week, and the committee has recommended this item for board approval. That concludes our verbal presentation, and we are ready for questions.
Thank you very much. First, do we have any public comment for this item?
There are none, Chair.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Are there any questions or comments from colleagues? If not, I'll take a motion.
Second.
Foley and Mahan. Can we get the roll, please?
Abikoga.
Aye.
Arenas.
Yes.
Candelas is absent. Cohen.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Kamei.
Aye.
Montano. Aye. Sell.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Weinberg. Yes. Mahan.
Aye.
Chair Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passed, Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll go to 7.3, which is an information item, an update on Super Bowl and FIFA World Cup preparations. And this will be presented by Kathleen Conley, Emergency Preparedness Manager, and Larry Bajwa, Transportation Superintendent. And I see we'll also have Aston Green, System Safety and Security Chief, and Captain Cardoza on deck to answer any questions.
Good evening, respected Board of Directors. I'm Larry Bajwa, the VTA's Transportation Superintendent for Light Rail Operations. I'm also the project manager for the special events coming up in 2026. And joining me is Kathleen Conley. She's our Emergency Preparedness Manager and co-project manager. And also we have Colin Drake, who's joining us virtually. So we can move on to the next slide. Today we will present the special event schedule, the challenges associated with it, and the planning process. Next slide, please. Levi Stadium has not hosted events of this scale and frequency of FIFA 2026. We are going to be having 6 matches in 19 days, patronized primarily by international fans who customarily utilize public transit, while simultaneously operating with dramatically reduced parking capacity for fans who are traveling via automobile, and repeating these events almost every 3rd day. 5 of the 6 FIFA World Cup games will occur on weekdays, requiring massive redeployment of staff and fleet resources typically dedicated to weekday operations. The repetition of FIFA World Cup games will cause cumulative strain on resources. There's going to be a peak of 5 matches in 13 days. And also, I'd like to add is that VTA is the only agency in the nation who is expected to have a Super Bowl 60 in February, and in June, we're going to be having the FIFA World Cup matches, and also in March, we're going to have 2 of the NCAA March Madness games over here also. I'll pass it on to Kathleen.
Thank you, Larry. Chairman, directors, Ms. Ganat. Next slide, please. We wanted to provide some visuals. What we have seen in our recent real-world events, that we have massive increased threats and hazards. The safety security breach in Miami last summer at the Copa America match highlights potential risk of insufficient planning, equipment, security, and staffing to manage the crowds. Transportation has been called, in air quotes, a soft target, as much of the system is exposed to the public. Transportation has also been targeted or closely connected with incidents of violence and security breaches in other areas, as you may have seen at the recent Paris Olympics. Next slide. This is from the 2024 World Series in LA. So last fall at the World Series celebration, transit vehicles became targets of large crowd violence and destruction. These risks of special events are not limited to international football, otherwise known as soccer, but rather are becoming ubiquitous in the U.S. and abroad. Notably, the Paris Olympic terrorist attack was directed at transit. There were also directions of interruptions of service at the European Cup Championships for soccer as well. Next slide. So you may be familiar with the news just this past November. There were attacks upon Jewish participants, anti-Semitic squads that had attacked the Israeli soccer fans. So there are challenges with geopolitical, racial, cultural tensions that can result in violence at special events. This is what separates or is unique from the Super Bowl event when we have a FIFA World Cup international event. At a time when there are multiple global wars, conflicts, and tensions, these incidents have fueled chaos and violence. Given the risks, VTA has developed an emergency management department, provided training and exercise for the Emergency Operations Center team, implemented the Everbridge alert notification system, and conducted extensive threat vulnerability assessments on our system with our Tetra Tech team. Additionally, WSP, that are joining us on virtually tonight, have completed a comprehensive needs assessment with recommendations to mitigate risks and hazards. Next slide. On this slide here, we see this is extracted from the needs assessment, safety security recommendations. For safety, emergency management, and security, the topics of, that were evaluated were staffing, procedures, and capital projects. Consequences of inaction were assessed, and they're provided there in the slides, where you can see insufficient capacity noted for staff, ability to recover from risks, hazards, safety, and injury. Recommendations to mitigate the gaps were also provided. Key findings are the deficiencies that are underscored in the understaffing for normal operations, and that's the piece that we want to stress, is that we have understaffing currently, and to have the additional impacts, stresses, challenges upon the system are where our concerns lie for the special events. I'll turn it back to Larry.
Thank you. Can I have the next slide, please? So want to point out some of the major differences between a FIFA World Cup game and the Super Bowl. FIFA attracts primarily international fans, many of whom rely on public transit, whereas Super Bowl is mostly from within the United States. Super Bowl, it's only going to be on one day, whereas the FIFA, 5 of the 6 FIFA games are on weekdays, requiring major redeployment of staff and fleet and straining resources nationwide. For a Super Bowl, we'll have all the national resources coming over here, whereas for FIFA, there are about 40 games that are happening within that short duration of time. So it's not going to be possible to deploy all the resources to Santa Clara. Parking capacity will be significantly reduced for fans traveling by car. Super Bowl 60 is going to have mostly English-speaking attendees, while FIFA will have more diverse linguistic audience. And the expected FIFA passenger load is nearly 3 times that of Super Bowl 60. 6,500 passengers versus approximately 20,000 for FIFA World Cup. Next slide, please. So this is some of the recommendations that came from the needs assessment that was conducted. What I'll try to do is give you some updates on some of these need assessments as well. Maximum mobilization of VTA fleet, facilities, and personnel will be required. Levi's Stadium events typically cap VTA egress capacity at 6,500 passengers per hour. Higher capacity is possible, but that will be an increase in travel times. The Bay Area Host Committee is scheduled to deliver their transportation management plan by the end of this month. So once we have that transportation management plan, we'll have better information on the security perimeters and what our operational plans are going to look like. The Bay Area Host Committee is currently working with regional transit agencies to improve passenger movement and increase capacity. Other rideshare and fan engagement options are being explored. A regular coordination with service planning to develop operations plans and determine the level of frequency of service that we'll be providing. One of the information that we received from the Bay Area Host Committee is that for Super Bowl 60 and for FIFA event logistics, it's going to be very similar to what we did during Super Bowl 50. So most of our light rail and bus operating plans will be a reflection of what we did during Super Bowl 50. Addressing the staffing levels, we do have ongoing training for light rail operators, and as of right now, we are confident that we'll have enough operators to support the event itself. Can I have the next slide, please? For public-facing services, the Ambassador Management Program, our talent development and service management teams have completed the orientation materials for the Ambassador Program. Our internal teams, human resources, employee relations, service management are progressing with the next steps. We have determined the key ambassador locations as to where they will be posted, but that's subject to change. We are coordinating with the Bay Area Host Committee, Levi's Stadium Management Company, BART, ACE, Capital, Caltrain for coordination of the ambassador orientation. And we continue to await further guidance from the Bay Area Host Committee on wayfinding strategies and app integration. There is a fair strategy in place, which includes a Clipper augmentation via the transit app and token transit, but we are hoping for a Clipper 2.0 to be implemented. But more robust integration is dependent on more guidance from the Bay Area Host Committee and MTC. Kathleen?
Thank you, Larry. And our next slide, please. So what is ahead? You've heard a lot of information about challenges, some areas where things have not gone well. The good news is we do know quite a bit of information, and we have a robust networking with other host sites, with other transit agencies, with the Bay Area Host Committee, and with our subject matter experts coming together. What we know is we'll be at maximum operations. What we know is that with FIFA World Cup, we'll be having an event every 3 days. What we know is this is going to be for greater than 3 weeks duration. We expect to have visitors coming into the area well before the events, staying after the events, and events happening between fan festivals and pop-ups, and the entire region really being very active throughout that entire time. So it's not singularly looking at the match time or an hour before or after. Some of the unknowns that we are connected with to get those answers when they are available is the NFL and the FIFA mandated security perimeters. That may prohibit use of the Great America Station, and we'll be making contingency plans for that. The security perimeter may further restrict operating capacity by returning operations back on Tasman. The NFL, FIFA, Bay Area Host Committee, and other policymakers may follow trends in special event planning by setting goals for car-free or car-light events and taking some of the areas where parking has been available and using that for their purposes. The NFL and FIFA may have requirements for media, VIP, enhanced security, first responders, hospitality, support services, which may further restrict nearby vehicle parking. The broadcast scheduling of matches will provide more detail on the time of day of the matches. and we have regional partnership uncertainties. The Bay Area Host Committee is working with us. Our Special Events Committee meets every 2 weeks. We had a meeting today with Bay Area Host Committee representation so that they're providing us updates, and we're also providing using that committee to ask questions and to garner more answers on our situations. We don't know which matches will be held here. We will be finding that out in December of 2025. So taking a look at the matchups, are there historic rivalries, which can be also very exciting. These events are very exciting. And then looking at and being able to plan what languages, what is the cultural history between the different teams that will be coming together. I also want to share with Captain Cardoza here is he had an opportunity to be in New Orleans at the recent Super Bowl. So our security specialists have been networking with other officers who have had the recent experiences, Las Vegas and New Orleans, so that we're getting that inside information in what is successful. Next slide. So with our special events planning and implementation, and we do have WSP on the line with us this evening, we can see that we have been following a process here where we've been identifying our gaps, we've been developing our solutions to bridge these gaps, implementing solutions at needs assessment and the threat vulnerability assessments that have occurred, that we have that documentation to look at risks and hazards and to be able to develop mitigation for any kinds of gaps. That is all in process. Conducting tests and rehearsals with our EOC team, operations, of course, executing plans and being ready for these events. And also, very importantly, documenting all of the work that we're doing in preparation, documentation using our National Incident Management System and California's Standardized Emergency Management System, that we're in compliance and we have those historical records so that we can learn from ourselves after actions and best practices. So I think that we have one more slide. And thank you for your time and attention, and of course, we'll take any questions.
Thank you very much. Before questions and comments, I think we have 2 speakers for public comment. Can go to
Yes,
them?
we do, Chair. We have 4, Jordan, Blair, Adina, and Betsy. Jordan, go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Hi, this is Jordan Moldow from the City of San Jose. Thank you for the great detailed report. I'm very thrilled that VTA is going to be exploring a car-free series of events. I think it's really important that if we want our visitors to have a great time and spend a lot of time in our cities and spend a lot of money in our cities, they need a great transportation system that is fully staffed up in order to get where they want to go without a car. And my 2 biggest questions for staff is, do you have recommendations for the member cities about whether there's corridors where it would be most beneficial to quickly invest in bus and speed reliability improvements for the events? And are there specific types of quick build improvements that you would recommend that the cities make in advance of this? I'm curious whether transit signal priority projects can be accelerated and whether signal timings can be adjusted so that transit has a higher priority during these events. Thank you.
And we'll go to our next speaker, and then after I'll ask staff to briefly respond to any questions.
Blair?
Hi, Blair.
Blair, we can't hear you, so we'll come back to you in a little bit.
I'm here again. Can you hear me now?
Oh, okay, yeah, please begin.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We'll try again. I don't know what happened, but thank you. We'll try again. I'm unmuted. Yeah, hi, Blair Beekman. The work I do with tech accountability. Well, I guess I first said thanks to Jordan, who, the previous public speaker, who spoke, to public transit concerns and a really good, thorough report. Thank you. I approach this subject, the work I do with tech accountability. I attend and speak about check accountability at BAWASI meetings a lot. They're the federal agency that kind of oversees, how these sort of projects will work for the Bay Area. They're a name to mention and to be considering and a reference to talk to. They have a really good staff. It's hired, most of their staff is San Francisco health workers, actually, from the health department. And they try to develop good emergency services. We've been trying to learn better practice as an emergency services process as opposed to a terrorist process in that era of 9/11, which is kind of ridiculous, I hope we can all agree upon. So we're trying to build a future of emergency care and service. They're an agency to count on. Dana Reed is someone to talk.
Adina, please begin speaking whenever you're ready.
Adina Levin with Seamless Bay Area. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Wanted to make two comments about making it easier for people to get to these sporting events. And the first is drawing from something that the staff is aware of, which is that the Bay Area is doing an all-agency transit pass that is specially for the APTA conference, and it's doing it for the second time in a row. And that kind of multi-agency pass is something that could help people that are traveling to get to Santa Clara County. And the second is that very shortly, as part of the Next Generation Clipper, there's going to be open payment. People are going to be able to pay with credit and debit card, which is so much more convenient for tourists and is an opportunity to promote and make it easier for people to get there by transit. Thank you.
Next is Betsy.
Thank you. Good evening. Betsy Magus. I'm a member of the VTA BPAC and the City of Santa Clara BPAC, speaking tonight for myself. Transportation is a big challenge for events this big. It's also a big opportunity to provide exemplary service and impress visitors and residents who may not regularly use transit. So please look for opportunities to improve connections and make it easier to get around the stadium and especially around the airport. Please take steps to minimize event-related disruptions to commuters who bike and take transit in the stadium vicinity. Since 2013, I have commuted by bicycle past the stadium by way of San Tomas Aquino Creek Trail. Leading up to Super Bowl 50, the trail was closed for a month, and the regular detour was closed for a week, leaving me to navigate a bike lane on busy Great America Parkway, blocked by event signs. Please see my letter from earlier today outlining practical ways to make these trail closures easier and make sure biking and walking are not just an afterthought. Thank you.
Chair, I do want to note for the record that we have received written public comments and they're on the online agenda portal. That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you very much. Would staff just like to briefly respond to some of the questions that were raised?
Yes, I'll respond to the first question regarding TSP. So the TSP project is near completion now, and we'll definitely have it up and running before the major events come in, and that will improve our signal timing. The second thing, talking about the light rail efficiency, there are a couple of projects that have been completed, and some are underway right now. The first one is we just installed a new crossover at the Champion Station, which will allow us to turn back trains at Lick Mill if the need be. Also, we're in the process of installing a double cross. We already have a single crossover, but we are going to be making it a double crossover at in the vicinity of Mayberry. The work is going to commence next week. And also at Bonaventura, where we're going to be adding another crossover. So all these things, including the TSP, is going to improve light rail efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's really exciting to hear. I'll go now to colleagues if there are any comments or questions. Yes, ex officio member Burt, and then Director Sell.
Thank you. We heard from the last public speaker, Betsy Magus, who I understand to be on our BPAC, and we had at our places a two-page letter from her really raising issues about the bike and pedestrian plan, and more of a focus on disruptions to existing bike and pedestrian routes in and around the stadium as a result of the events. Either way, I'd like to understand, do we have a plan to either enhance access or at a minimum to mitigate disruptions to existing networks?
Thank you for the question, and what we are at this point is looking for more information from the Bay Area Health Host Committee so that we can determine actual perimeters and where those impacts are going to happen. So this is something that we need to and want to come back and revisit that piece for bicycles and pedestrians particularly.
And will whatever evolves, will this be referred to our BPAC?
I can't speak to that, I'm sorry.
We could take that to the BPAC, because the notes that she actually addressed in her letter were true. I mean, they closed everything down around the Great America Station on both the Capitol Quarter side and the light rail side, but for that whole week. And so bicycles did have not an easy path to travel. And so I think it's us working with the city and probably engaging BPAC and where those perimeters might be once they're defined, and that we can understand how some of our modes are going to be getting there. And last year, I don't know if anybody knew, people were here on the board. Larry, do you want to talk about how the trains traveled last time? The Great America Station was closed down during Super Bowl.
Yes. So for any Levi's event, they do shut down the Guadalupe River Trail and the San Tomas Aquino Trail. They do not allow any bicycle access in that area. That's something that law enforcement does. But as far as our operational plans were, they did not allow us to use Great America Station for ingress. After the event was over, we used the Great America Station for egress. They allowed us to stage some of our empty trains in the area between Great America and Lick Mill stations. But that was after going through a security check.
And the letter actually asserts not only that it was lost for a week, but it was actually, she asserts that it was a month before the event plus a week afterwards. So whatever happened before, it'd be really great if we could look at minimizing those impacts and not allow kind of one mindset to just supersede other needs.
I think that it might be realistic, however, to emphasize that with FIFA World Cup, that is an additional challenge because it is an extended period of the events, and certainly minimizing the impact is why we are anxiously waiting for more information from World Cup and NFL as well as Bay Area Host Committee. I can answer the question about the Bay Area UASI. The second question was, if that's appropriate. VTA is very much engaged in Bay Area UASI, which is the Urban Area Securities Initiative. We participate in those meetings, and in fact, we were instrumental in bringing some of the trainings for the special events to County of Santa Clara.
Thank you. Director Sell, and then we'll have Director Arenas.
Hi, it was mentioned that some of the concerns was insufficient amount of staff. And I was just wondering, just like when you have a natural disaster, something, you have mutual aid. So other cities from other regions and county send staff and send equipment. And so I was just wondering if we could get buses from other areas in California so that we could have lots of frequency. And then if staff from other areas wanted to do mutual aid, and if public safety from other areas wanted to also do mutual aid, because from the PowerPoint presentation, it showed when crowds overtake and there's confusion, then it can cause a lot of devastation. So if you have an overwhelming amount of safety and you get people moving, then with frequency of buses, with enough staff, then that might alleviate some of the pressure.
And you're absolutely right. So emergency management, a foundational piece is that mutual aid, and certainly with security, protective services, we are working closely with the other hosts, certainly Seattle, King County, and LA Metro, and looking at some of the best practices. We do know, however, there's certain resources that are very restricted. For instance, canine teams, as well as the animals themselves. So there are constrictions, and we will be looking to expand even within VTA, which is when staff members then move into a position to help and support.
Okay, that's wonderful, and I think it's so great that the host committee is working with VTA, encouraging people to use transit, because that's how we can get people in and out very fast. So thank you very much for all the work you're doing.
Director Arenas.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. It was very thorough. I wanted to ask about the Bay Area Host Committee. Now, I know that there is some recognized consequences of inaction. You referred them this way, and the recommendations that come from that. Are you ensuring that the Bay Area Host Committee hears some of what this board has to say, some of the feedback that we've heard from some of our callers? How are you integrating lessons learned? I mean, I've heard you say that there's a transportation management plan that's going to be produced rather sooner than later. I'm not sure exactly what that time frame was. I didn't catch that.
March of this month, by the end of this month.
Oh, by the end of this month.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So some of the ideas that you've heard, I think I've heard from one of the callers, a multi-agency pass, an open payment, credit, debit. I'm also thinking about, I know we have the mayor here of Morgan Hill, and I represent the south part of our county as a county supervisor, and I'm thinking about how do we market and how do we let folks know about some alternative ways to arrive to the games.
So, as from what the plans that we have right now, it's going to be integrating the apps. FIFA is going to have their own app, and on that app, we're going to make sure that there's a link to get into the different transit agencies, and also the same thing for NFL. So that's going to be one of the options. And the other option is for Super Bowl 50, we had EventTech. That was an app for VTA itself, and we were charging a $20 round-trip fare on VTA. So something similar to that might happen this time also. But with Clipper 2.0, if we can accept credit cards on the system, it'll be a lot more beneficial. As of right now, it's not been determined the share that VTA will get. And I think that's where Carolyn or Greg will come in, and to determine as to what that fair share is going to be for VTA.
And how will that be determined?
Right now, the Bay Area, I guess MTC, because they are sort of managing the Clipper activities, are having conversations with the Bay Area Host Committee. I'm trying to follow up on that. The Clipper 2 with the new card or whatever, or the new system, will allow open payment. So that is supposed to be up and functioning by later this year. So if that's true, that will actually be a very convenient way for people to be able to get onto the systems. The other one is making sure they understand how to, where to tap and what they need to do. So that will actually, hopefully, if nothing goes wrong, that will be available. And then the pass is something that we're still considering as to what we could do there.
So will we integrate that into the transportation management plan in the moment, since it hasn't happened?
Yeah.
Will that get integrated, or is that something we're just going to leave to you to do on the side?
I think it's something that all of the agencies are dealing with right now in the region as to how we're going to do that. So yeah, we'll be working through that.
Okay.
But I'll be making sure I bring any comments back through the board. I sit on the Clipper executive board. All the large agencies and the general managers sit on it, as well as a couple of the smaller transit agencies.
I love it. I love it. And so then we'll have our own app that will integrate into the FIFA app, and then the Super Bowl app. will our app help somebody find alternative routes to get to some of the events?
Yes.
And so how will it include different ways of getting there? How many, what kinds of different ways? Would it only include VTA? What will it include?
So what the Bay Area Host Committee is working on is establishing fixed routes. I'll give an example. Let's say they'll tell the attendees, get to the Oakland Coliseum, and from the Oakland Coliseum, we'll have shuttle buses that'll bring you to the event itself. Or you get to Milpitas BART, and from Milpitas BART, you can catch the light rail. So it's something that they're going to be promoting also, and all that information is going to be integrated into all the apps.
Great. Okay. I'd also love to advocate for some South County routes, as we have a lot of folks out there with families who would love to come up, because I think this is kind of a North County event, and even though it is such, there's folks from the South County that'd love to attend and hopefully find some alternative routes. Okay, and let me see. So from some of the recommendations, what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're standardizing some of the ongoing operations based on what you've learned from the previous Super Bowl.
From the plans that we had from the previous Super Bowl, yes.
And that will apply to the FIFA
No, go ahead.
events.
Say that again?
Will they apply to both FIFA and this upcoming Super Bowl?
It all depends upon the restrictions that are imposed upon us. As of right now, from the initial information that we have received from Bay Area Host Committee, they will be fairly identical. But at the same time, it all depends upon the security parameters that are imposed upon us.
Okay, but you showed us some articles about some other areas that had some events and probably the worst case scenarios. And do they have some protocols that or best practices that we could pick up and integrate?
In addition to the Super Bowl 50 playbook, that is a great template that we're building upon, we're expanding that with Emergency Operations Center and inclusion with our protective services and security. So it will be based upon that template and that experience and those lessons learned, but also with 10 years of looking at large special events, as we showed in the slides, recent real-world events, and networking with professionals and experts from those events to see what has been best practice, what works, and how we can set that up for our 2026 events here.
I appreciate that. I know that you're going to have this on your integrated somehow in the plans, whether it's the transportation management plan or whatever logistical plans or documents that you're going to produce. But I want to make sure that we hold human trafficking in the different ways that looks, and it's not always sexually based human trafficking, and what kind of interventions we'll have for either one of those. As you know, the FIFA, and you stated, those are more international folks who are coming into an area, and so in our Super Bowl, there's obviously a lot of opportunities for human trafficking, and so I'm wondering, how is that integrated into the efforts that you're taking in now?
The two of us are not the experts at VTA, and we can certainly have that come forward, but it is a part of our discussions and very much our concerns, because we do know that these special events have history. We have the data that show that there is a much greater risk, and perhaps Captain Cardoza can also speak to that from the Sheriff's Office and the work that is being done.
Yeah, so what I do know is that VTA is partnering with the DA's office and a bunch of other stakeholders. They're actually having training sessions. VTA is going to hold one in the next couple of weeks. What we've seen also from, as stated earlier, not only did I have an opportunity to go out to New Orleans, but Vegas before that, as part of the NFL's VPSO program, visiting public safety, And the public outreach that both Vegas and New Orleans did was huge and played a big role in raising awareness. Everything from advertisements on freeways, streets, literally wrapping the sides of buildings, casinos, big buildings in both Vegas and New Orleans. Also, their public transit had a bunch of outreach and awareness posters inside buses, trains, and at transit centers. So a lot of outreach, a lot of training, a lot of partnership that's going on.
Great. I'd love to offer myself to be involved and include our Human Trafficking Commission under our county. I'm very concerned about what will be happening next year, especially with the kind of sentiment that the president has triggered with immigrant populations and the opportunity that provides for folks who take advantage of human beings, and so especially in sports events like these. So I know that we're primarily talking about transportation modalities here, but we also have an opportunity to be responsible as we do this.
I'm sorry. I'd like to see us use this opportunity as to elevate, education and awareness, where we will
Absolutely.
have additional people and opportunities to use the marketing that we have, perhaps the apps, things along those lines. And we've talked a lot about challenges, and certainly there are challenges ahead, and to blend that with the opportunities, and that could be one of them.
Yeah, what I do want to add is that all of our frontline employees, they go through a human trafficking training every 2 years, and
Yes.
during their new employee orientation.
I appreciate that. Well, my question would be then, what is the result of those trainings and what are those reports? And if they're rendering the kind of spotting or interventions that we're looking for. And if not, then we need to shift and ensure that there's other partners that can help us with that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great, and that will also go to SSTPO, and I think there will be additional opportunities, and we can engage with those who are particularly interested. So thank you for bringing that up. We have a number of questions. We'll go to Director Cohen, then Turner, then Vice Chair Mann.
Yeah, I think you've started answering that in some of Director Anis's questions. But can you talk a little bit about the coordination with other transit agencies, how that's going? Other than, we talked a little bit about fare and Clipper Card, but other than that, is there some overall plan for extra coordination during that time to make a more seamless transit experience?
Yeah, so the transit agencies that are going to be responsible for providing the first and last mile transportation are going to be VTA, ACE, and Capital. Those are the ones that are going to be coming closest to the stadium. VTA knows what their capacity is during egress. Bay Area Host Committee and the VTA has initiated a dialogue with the Capital Corridor and ACE train to see how we can maximize their capacity and transport the maximum number of patrons from the stadium itself. Also, the other key partners are going to be Caltrain and a BART. So we are talking to all of them, but as of right now, our focus is on how to make sure we maximize our capacity during the egress of the games.
Thank you for your presentation. And thank you for Director Arenas' concern about South County. I too have some concern about that and making sure that there is coverage during the Super Bowl and during the FIFA game. So there will be fixed locations, I'm assuming both Morgan Hill and Gilroy? For everything that we're talking about, NFL and for?
The normal service will not be impacted. Our bus service to the entire county is going to remain the same.
And would there be, in those cases, any additional coverage in South County if required?
If required, yes, depending upon the forecast as to what we're expecting based upon intelligence as to where the primary number of patrons are going to be coming from, we will supplement the service.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I'll be quick. Just on the pass, can you tell us a little more about what our options are for charging? Just how would this work? Are we able to charge a set fee of I don't know, $50, $100 to have like an all-inclusive transit pass for 3 days? Or how much flexibility do we have to do a sort of program specific, here's your Super Bowl transit pass for a visitor?
I think that'd probably be more towards what we're doing at the regional level. There's been.
Do we have to be wedded to do we have to be wedded for a special event like this to that? I mean, it feels to me like we need to recoup our costs for all of this extra investment in staffing.
One of the things is making sure we try to recoup our costs, and it's not I don't want anybody to negotiate heavy discounts for transit because it would be a problem for us because we have so much. It's a cost. It's a large cost for us. We're looking at other revenue opportunities through advertising that VTA can do over and above what we have today, because there are real special opportunities there for us to be able to do, and major partnerships to try to recoup costs through that. But the transit is ticket. We might want to think about it all.
I guess I know it's a crazy idea, but just hear me out. I want to encourage us, and I don't know what the legal barriers are, our agreements with MTC, state law. I mean, you all can inform us on our options. But we're going to have 500,000 people come to the region for these events. Many will fly into SJC. Many will stay in the 10,000 plus hotel rooms, 20,000 hotel rooms in the South Bay. Many will spend hundreds of dollars on Ubers and Lyfts. And if we can offer them a $100 all-inclusive transit pass that actually is a meaningful source of revenue to cover higher staffing levels and the security upgrades and all the things we need to do, I think especially for World Cup, when you have 3 intensive weeks of teams and fans, diehard fans from other countries that are very transit-oriented here, I'm not sure we have to charge them $2 a ride. We may be able to do a bigger, better. We may be able to pitch them up front when they land at SJC, buy your World Cup pass, $100, and you can ride VTA all weekend, right?
We could potentially do that. I'd have to check with legal what we can. Like, we did commemorative.
I got Greg
Clipper
going.
tickets.
Here we go.
He wants to
Seeing
get
dollar
involved.
signs. All right, now we're talking.
I just need the term you use.
You're going to tell me why we can't do this.
No, because I am all in favor of it. I think the term that we use is where the struggle is going to be, the all-inclusive pass.
I just mean you can get on any bus or light rail anytime for your 3 days here. Have fun.
No,
You know,
and so how that gets packaged and so
Right.
it's understood, because there's going to be an expectation of a lot of folks that is going to get them on all of the systems in the region. And so that's
okay.
what we got to be careful about.
Fair enough.
And so and then how that revenue is shared. I think that's the issue we're going to have in trying to come up with a regional ticket for the events that then is shared amongst everybody. So you're on the right path. I would love for it to be Santa Clara County only, because then we can control that a lot better.
Yeah.
But that's just the issue. We got to.
If they have a card, we know everywhere they swipe. I mean, is it that hard to do it regionally?
Again, it's going to be the arrangement with either FIFA or the Super Bowl. Are they willing to do a ticket like that within? And that's what we got.
I don't know if it's worth it for Super Bowl, one-off, but 3 weeks of fans here in the South Bay for World Cup's a big deal.
I think you're correct. I think the other thing that hasn't been really discussed here, and Larry and Kathleen and Captain are not involved in this as much, is that there are going to be activities more than those 6 days, as San Jose knows. There's a lot of other activities that we will be wanting to promote, be getting people to in downtown San Jose. If there's a watch party in Morgan Hill or South County, those types of things we're going to have to be aware of, and how do we get people there for you? And so those are the things that are going to continue. So that all-inclusive pass isn't just about getting to FIFA. And then even at the soccer stadium, there may be areas that you don't necessarily just have to have a ticket to get into. So there's lots of activities for 3 weeks straight. We're all going to need our energy drinks or whatever we use to keep us going, but it is what's going to be needed to be done. But I think that like a pass like that gets you throughout the county wherever you're going can be something that is very useful, because we do have a number of systems. And honestly, with BART, we could work something out. We would know whether they got on, they were at a BART station or not, and we might be able to do something like that, or Caltrain, because we're partners with both. So,
All right.
and so
Just an idea.
I think it's a great idea.
You pointed to where the programming will be. I think obviously super important that we know ingress, egress for the venues, for Levi's and SAP for March Madness. But to Carolyn's point, I was on a call this morning with the Barry Host Committee as well, and I mean, I think, the team hotels for FIFA, for World Cup, will be, Signia and Marriott will be downtown San Jose. We know that there will be a lot of consistent programming, particularly those first 3 weeks. We plan to have a pretty consistent fan experience there. And so we will need to also plan for some of these other locations where there will be consistent programming. So I just wanted to flag that now. I don't think we're ready. I don't think we actually know what all that
Just
programming
give us your dates as soon as possible.
Okay. Well, we'll follow up offline. I don't know that we know what all the programming is yet. That's still being developed. But there will be certain locations, probably not just downtown San Jose, Santana Row, Morgan Hill, North County, as the supervisor said, or wherever else where there may be things going on. We just need to plan for those locations as well.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Larry and Kathleen are involved very heavily as managing, making sure the operations and security are being planned, but also implemented. I'm going to pick on Jay, who's looking downstairs, but Jay Tyree will be heavily involved in the service planning aspects going forward with everything else that's going to be happening in the region.
Thank you so much. Director Kamei?
Thank you so much. I really think that Matt has something there because, when I went to Japan, you can buy your rail pass, and it's much cheaper if you buy it, before you go to the country. So I think, especially for FIFA, if you go to other countries, the rail is the way to go. I mean, the same thing with Italy and other places. I think that if you're able to they have a 7-day pass, a 14-day pass, a 21-day pass, even if we just do it for a period of time, I think it's definitely worth doing. So I know that it can be tricky, but at minimum, you ought to be able to go on the Caltrain, you ought to be able to go on the BART, you ought to be able to go on the light rail, on a bus, and just have a set fee and, away you go. So I think that we ought to try it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? No? Do you? Oh, I'm sorry. Director Abakoga, please, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the discussion. I've been doing my own little conversations with folks, too, about this idea of and I was thinking, I don't know if this is possible, but if we could add like a transit fee on the ticket fee when folks buy their ticket to an event, have some kind of transit line item, like when you buy a concert ticket, you have all these other service fees that are attached to that. So I don't know if that's doable at this point in time, but that was something that I was thinking about as well, and or at least if we have a way for folks to be able to purchase online a transit pass when they purchase their other tickets, that would be ideal. Thanks.
Thanks so much. And I'll just add my voice to the number of voices with the interest in some kind of pass. I think the idea of doing 3 weeks or something for a time frame and doing something commemorative would be interesting because it could also be a marketing tool, not just for those who are here for the games, but for our residents as well, to get them excited about transit as well. And I'll just end by saying clearly a lot of interest in this, and I look forward in having it, finding ways for pieces of this to come back to the board in a way that makes sense, to committees, because I think as we hopefully learn more information, there's going to continue to be a lot of interest, but appreciate the robust discussion. And this is a informational item, so we'll move on to our next. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is 7.4, which is an update on VTA's BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 extension project. And we'll hear from Tom McGuire, Chief Capital Mega Projects Delivery Officer, Sarah Wilson, Construction Director for BSV2, and Erica Rokes, Deputy Director, BSV External Affairs.
Okay, good evening, directors. Happy to be here to talk to you about our program update first on the BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 extension. And as the chair said, I've got Sarah Wilson, our construction director, and Erica Rokes, our external affairs acting director, with me today. So let's start with just stage setting. Here we go. And I think some of you who were at the BSV2 Oversight Committee last month will have seen this slide before. But just a reminder that there are three fundamental things we're trying to solve to keep this project viable, to move forward towards federal funding and eventual heavy construction. And those are getting our cost estimates and our project budget in order by saving between $700 million and $1.2 billion through value engineering scope. Secondly, to align ourselves with the contractor partners, both those on the project now and those who potentially do want to come work for us within the industry, so that we have contract terms that we can work on to keep that budget as we get deeper into construction. And then finally, signing a full funding grant agreement, or an FFGA, with the federal government. So all three of those things need to be resolved before we can say we're full speed ahead on the project. But we are making a lot of progress and doing a lot of work right now in all three of those areas. I'll start with a cost savings update. So this, we're showing work in progress. I know this board has asked several times to not wait until we have the answer all buttoned up, but rather to share the progress we're making. Not too much has changed on this slide since last month, but this is what we call our level 1 and our level 2 cost savings. So these are initial attempts to reduce, again, to achieve those $700 to $1.2 billion of savings. And we've gone through these in much greater detail at the BSV2 Oversight Committee last month. We'll do that again next month, but we're making progress here. The values in this table add up to a number over $300 million, and that's good. But there are much harder decisions ahead and much harder efforts around cost savings ahead of us if we're going to reach that goal. The work of the task force is broken into, the work of the cost savings, rather, is broken into a series of task force. We're trying to approach this problem with some structure and some discipline. It's always tempting when you're trying to cut a budget or find cost savings to race ahead, and you can sometimes convince yourself that you save money. You really haven't. We're trying to take a much more structured and disciplined approach so that the engineering and the design work and the cost estimating work really holds up to scrutiny, both from our own team, but also from our federal program management oversight consultants. Some of the areas that we're looking at you'll see up there on the screen, a really creative idea of concurrently tunneling from both the west and the east at the same time, reducing the size of the large storage and vehicle maintenance yard we're building with BART, and some of the other things on the list. Want to remind all members of this board that the consultant that the BSV2 Oversight Committee has retained through the Auditor General, Gal Ziedler, is involved in these committees. And in fact, Nasri Munfa from Gal Ziedler was in our office for a good chunk of the morning talking about some of these tunneling issues. Even as we work through levels 1 and 2, we are already teeing up what we call level 3. So these are even more aggressive cost-saving ideas that still sit within our environmental clearance, and they still sit within our project description. So they're within what the federal government has committed $5 billion to fund. But again, they give us an opportunity to make progress on that cost saving and that balanced budget. That's the boring stuff. I think the really exciting stuff is what we're doing with our community and what we're doing out in the field under construction. So I'll hand the mic to Sarah for that.
Great. So just a few photos of what's happening in the field right now. The courtesy screen for the earthquakes has been installed, and we were able to do it while they were out of town, so we didn't even interrupt their practice. It came out looking really nice, and we hope it'll preserve their experience as they prep for their games. Also, some sheet piles have gone in, and that's just for stormwater control at the moment. There are other sheet piles happening later, but those have been installed for a detention pond on site. The office trailers are now all on site, and they're being set up and connected to utilities and should be in use in the next week or two. So those will be for the field supervision and our construction management personnel to be located at the construction site, and of course VTA folks as well. Lateral utility connections for things like the trailers, but also for the yard, the shops, and the maintenance shop, and other items that need to be online to facilitate construction. And then the last photos are the survey checks that have happened after the grading was completed. You can see on the right side the grading is complete, and that's last, just to kind of show the stage is set for our launch structure to begin. Now the top of it is there, and we can start installing guide walls and the big cat shaft walls shortly. There's a ton of work that's been happening that we've reported on previously for optimizations for the shaft, but also just the significant preparation. We had a kickoff meeting with the contractor and our construction manager and our quality program, and everybody really excited about this work starting, got some paperwork underway, and got a ton of coordination underway as well. And large equipment is going to start to show up on the site within the next few weeks. Erica next.
All right, just want to give an update on our recent stakeholder engagement and outreach. We had our quarterly community working group meetings in February, where we gave them updates on the upcoming construction, so knowing what to plan for, as well as the cost savings, and discussed more on our Thriving Business program. We're getting ready to put out some surveys, so using their assistance to review some of the materials in advance. In addition, wanted to share that there's a lot of additional efforts that are happening in the area, in our station areas, that the team is engaged in. So we are members of the technical advisory committees for VTA's transit-oriented development access studies around the downtown station and the 28th Street Little Portugal station. We're coordinating with the Santa Clara Station Area Plan, and the City of San Jose has recently kicked off the Reimagining Santa Clara Street study. So we are involved in those efforts as well. And as Sarah mentioned, as the team is gearing up in the field to kick off more construction, my team has been gearing up, getting ready to make sure that everyone in the area is aware of what's happening. We're gearing up for construction, briefing the adjacent stakeholders. We're planning meetings with the residences in the area, the neighborhood associations, and we'll be launching more regular construction notifications with more activities happening. Some additional upcoming activities that will be happening in the near future. Our quarterly newsletter will be coming out this week. The pop-up engagement season has begun, so we'll be out and about in the community. And we're have further engagement with some students at Santa Clara University and San Jose State to get more engaged in the project. We're planning for our next community working group meetings.
Okay. And so we talked about cost savings, and I said the second big thing that needs to be true for the program to remain viable is making sure that we're aligned with the industry, the contractors we have now, and potentially contractors we're going to work with in the future. And this board back in November challenged us to put together a contracting task force under the joint oversight of the project, but also our general counsel. That task force continues to meet. We're focused on a couple of things. How we make the decision about whether or not to exercise what the contract with our contract package 2, our tunneling contractor, calls the off-ramp, whether or not to off-ramp our contractor, whether to do it fully or partially, and really importantly, if so, how to repackage and rebid the contract in a way that gives the VTA as much control and as much leverage and flexibility to build the job right going forward. And that includes how the packaging of the scope may be split up into different pieces, what procurement method and contract method is right for each of those pieces, and then it's a specific crosswalk of that contracting and legal work with the technical side of things. We've also been talking to the industry, so we do not want to go into a potential off-ramp plan or a next step without our eyes wide open to what other vendors in the industry are expecting, whether they want to work with us and on what terms they want to work with us. And we just completed about 2 weeks of intense interviews with most of the major global firms who can execute a tunnel project of this size. I think they expressed a lot of interest, but they also shared a lot of interesting lessons learned and information with us that is going into that task force's work, and it's going to really help us make a robust recommendation by the second quarter of this year. And the final piece is our pursuit of the federal funds. This is a schedule we've been showing since the last quarter of 2024. I've put in dotted lines some of the areas that, as we get to understand what the new administration's expectations are, and we heard from a lobbyist last month. I think the items on the bottom 2 rows in dotted lines are those are moving targets. Obviously, the best thing for this project would be to get a full funding grant agreement, have a balanced budget, have a contractor willing to work with us, and get that shovel in the ground, get that contract awarded by 2026, which requires getting the federal funding by the end of 2025. I think based just on trying to be realistic and optimistic, but measured optimistic about how that process may go, we are working through different scenarios to prepare for if the federal government's not ready to fund us on that timeline, how do we keep the project moving forward and keep making our progress on cost savings? So that concludes this informational report, and we'll look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Let's go to public comment first, and then we'll come back for questions. We have in person Harry Neal, and then we'll go to online.
Hello once again. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I noted on the slide where it was talking about the meetings with the working groups that the reimagining Santa Clara Street was listed there. And it occurred to me, if there's going to be work on Santa Clara Street anyway, and one of the reasons that we aren't doing cut and cover is for the disruption, could we not overlap those two? It's just something to think about, since cut and cover is very disruptive, but it's hopefully a lot cheaper than what we're looking at. If we're able to potentially overlap those two Santa Clara Street works, then it might be a way to reduce the overall amount of disruption and find some cost savings. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think we have two commenters online.
Yes, we do. We have Roland and Blair. Roland, you may begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you. So the first thing I'd like to do is to share concern with the board that the so-called CWGs are not open to the public and that the narrative is controlled by Kingsley Home, who apparently are not interested in input from future riders. But I'd like to wrap up by touching on the key points of my letters over the weekend. First of all, the statement made by the consultants that a single cross passage costs between $5 and $20 million is up by $20 million if you pivot from sequential to mechanical excavation. Second, we can say $400 million at each portal, total $800 million if we pivot between both portals. Third, we can save an additional $1 billion by launching the single boat TBM from the Diridan train box instead of Santa Clara. And finally, we can save another $1 billion by initiating 3 tunnel drives simultaneously and save 2 years of excavation and process. Thank you.
Next speaker, Blair. Go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Hi, Blair Beekman. To kind of offer what I was talking about public comment earlier, thanks a lot for this item and your reporting on it. Good staff presentation. I hope there can be a following open, good conversation. I'm concerned that, with issues like why we switched from the single bore on top of each other to a double layer track, those are questions of, I think why you did that is because of safety. Yet I mention often, you guys never ever talk about that. That's why you made the decision to change to a side-by-side track. People want to further that concept with a 2-bore tunnel. I just hope we just make safety a regular conversation. It's from that. People are asking you questions in last month's meeting from different parts of the Bay Area why your subject matter isn't more clear and accountable. You guys have to really make your public meeting process an open, clear dialogue and not this secret hidden agenda, what nonsense way of working you guys think is so special. Thank you.
That ends public comment.
Thank you. Closing public comment. Do we have questions from colleagues? I'll start on this side. Comments or questions? No? Any on this side? Great. If not, this is an informational item, so thank you very much. I look forward to continuing these discussions.
Okay, and our next and final item is an action item.
And Tom, before you go on, let's just see if there's any recusals for this item. Yes, Director Abacoga.
Thank you, Chair. Due to Government Code 1090, I will be recusing myself from this item and leaving the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tom. Thank you.
Pardon me, Chair, sorry about that. Our next item is an action item. This is an approval for an important IT and professional services contract for the BART program. From a high-level perspective, this is a contract that will provide the BART team of both consultants and staff with the resources needed to support the program and the subject matter expertise to manage our IT services, which are very complex in a project of this size. These services include cybersecurity, desktop support, or managing our unique building integration model and other cutting-edge technical tools. It's a result of a very healthy and competitive procurement process. My colleague Krishna Dave, the Deputy Director for Project Controls and Administration, will walk you through the numbers, but I think we had over 20 bidders on this project, so I think we've got very competitive pricing. I got some really nice local DBEs getting involved in the program, and I'll turn it over to Krishna to tell you more.
Thanks, Tom. Again, this is an action item. We are requesting the board authorize the general manager to execute contract with 3 firms that are listed on the screen. The firms are Tech2 Business Solutions, EPC Consultants, and Consultants Specialists. While the engagement with the 3 firms is planned for 7 years, the contract is for a 3-year period with 4 one-year options. Implementation will be through yearly task orders. The total amount of this request is $44.13 million, and the amount to each of the proposers is listed on the slide that is in front, that's on your screen. Of this $44.13 million, we are reserving a reserve of about $2.2 million. Next slide, please. The contractors will report to VTA staff. VTA is also integrated in implementation of the systems. Next slide, please. The scope of this contract is in 2 parts. Requirement 1 will cover technology support and services. Requirements 2 includes document control management. Next slide, please. What you see on the screen are the details of the contract scope of services. Establishing users' needs, designing and implementing the system are services that are on on-call basis. For clarity, these activities are identified with an asterisk. It is expected that the tools needed for the program will be fully functional in the first 3 years. Routine operation and maintenance will continue for the rest of this engagement through the 1-year options, if exercised. Next slide, please. This is important. The compensation type is cost plus fixed fee. As indicated earlier, work authorization will be on a yearly task order basis with key performance indicators for evaluation of the contractor's performance. This is a service contract. Customer satisfaction is key to the success of the contractors. A few KPIs or key performance indices are listed on the screen. Next slide, please. Key positions provided under these contracts are listed on this slide. I would draw your attention to the 3rd bullet on requirements 1. The solution architects and systems integration specialists are the experts responsible for installing, configuring, and user acceptance testing. Next slide, please. This is the timeline of this procurement process. The RFP was issued in August 2024. Happy to inform you that we had very good response. We had about 29 proposals. 19 proposals were deemed responsive. After interviews, staff selected the 3 proposers, 2 for both the requirements, and the 3rd proposer for technology support. Next slide, please. This recaps the action requested today. All the 3 firms are local, small, and DB certified. There are 9 subcontractors, all local with multiple certifications. The established DBE goal is 4.94%. We expect to exceed this goal. The contract award is for the first 3 years, but commitment is through yearly task order basis for effective and efficient management of contracts. The staffing approach is to pick the best candidate from the 3 contracts. Staffing is based on project needs and is expected to ramp up initially, the first 3 years, ramp down post-completion of all functional requirements. Performance metrics will be reported on a regular basis. This contract is all about efficient deployment of critical technology resources. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks so much. Let's go first to public comment. Do we have any commenters for this item?
We do have to, Roland, you may begin speaking when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. So the particular buzzword I was looking for in this presentation is something called BIM, B-I-M, Building Information Modeling, which is typically a model from which all these documents hang out from. So my question to the Chair, are we going to be using the BIM for this project? And if not, why not? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Blair. Go ahead, please, and begin speaking when you're ready.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thank you for this item. Sorry if my comments are a little strong at this time. I mean it with a good heart and good intentions. To offer a few broad observations for this item. The VTA has suffered some very serious cyber attack issues in the past few years. It's been very disheartening. From that, it's still important to consider that we don't have to be at war with these people. And if we are at war, we have to practice concepts of peace in the practices of war. So good luck how to be doing that. Good luck how to be accountable with the public during the process and asking for a process that is not warlike, basically, where we practice good democracy. And that means being participatory with the public as needed. There are ways to do it, believe it or not. And to make those attempts, offer concepts of peace and not war. Thank you.
That ends public comment.
Thank you. And do we briefly want to respond to the question from public comment?
Yes, BIM model, yes, we adopted BIM model right at the beginning of our engineering program, building information modeling. It is one of the tools that we have deployed to bring all the designs together, and that's the tool we use to ensure that there are no conflicts between multiple contracts, construction interfaces, design interfaces. All these critical functions are through the BIM models. And in the past, we have used BIM models in our risk assessment. The risk assessment that we had carried out in January of last year with the Federal Transit Administration was preceded by a display of a BIM model. That is a central tool in all our activities at VTA.
Thank you. I'll go now to director comments or questions. Do we have any for this item? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Cohen and Sell. And we can do a voice vote for this item. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? One additional aye for the record. And none opposed. Thank you. That item passes. Thank you very much to staff for presenting that item. We're now on to 8.1, items of concern and referral to administration. Are there any referrals today from my colleagues?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll recognize Director Sell and then ex officio Burt.
I have a concern. Would I say that now?
I think now's the best time, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So with the possibility of a strike, Sunnyvale high school students heavily rely on VTA buses. So the students that rely on the buses, some of their parents cannot take off work to drive their kids. They cannot afford to take share rides. So understanding that that is a great stress to those families. If there's a way, if there's any amount of capacity to help the students in Sunnyvale, Fremont High, Homestead High, and throughout the county, the students are at great need of VTA bus service, if there's any ability to do that during the strike. Alternate thing is to have good communications with the districts, so the districts know exactly where VTA and the drivers and the buses stand, so they can help the families plan. So that is just my comment. And if staff had any comment on that, that would be great too.
Is staff able to respond
Yeah,
briefly? I mean,
Patrice, do you think you can come down and talk about the communications? And then and I don't know if you have anything more to add, Nani, or not, so you both come on down.
Good evening. Thank you for the question, Director Sell and Board of Directors. From a communications perspective, we have been very actively communicating with the public in general, and specifically with schools and community groups in underserved areas, so that they are aware that there is the potential of a strike, and as we learned tonight, that the likelihood of it being very great, and that we will be doing everything that we can through our website, our transit app, and other communications to keep people well informed of what's happening and what their alternatives are while we are not offering bus service.
And I'll add specifically that that has included, as I understand it, significant outreach to schools.
Yes, very significant outreach to schools, and we have done communications in multiple languages so that we reach a variety of audiences.
Thank you. We'll go to ex officio Burt and then Director Kamei.
Thank you. We had at our places a public comment that was speaking to an issue of whether the Board of Supervisors is looking to revoke a policy to establish bike lanes on expressways, which they control, but the assertion is that both the VTA board and the Board of Supervisors has had this policy for over 20 years, and now the supervisors are looking at revoking it. What I'd like to request is for us to hear a follow-up on what's the reality of this and what is our involvement in this and our opportunity to engage on it.
Yeah, I appreciate the commenter speaking tonight as well, because I didn't know that that's where necessarily they were moving towards. So our staff did talk to the other gentleman, but we actually will follow up with the county roads.
And were we able to confirm that that is where the
I want to check. That's what I want
county
to
is
do. Is
headed?
I can call their director
Okay.
of county roads.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Director Kamei.
Thank you so much. I want to echo Director Sell's concerns. I have great concerns. There are not just, I mean, she specifically mentioned Sunnyvale, but there are so many people whose only way of getting to work, getting to school, getting to a doctor's appointment, many disabled individuals who rely on our public transportation. I actually have been taking light rail and the buses, and it takes me a little longer, but you realize who has to and has no other choice but to take public transit. So I just want to express my concern that it is greater than just students or families. It's working people who don't have cars, who have no other choice but to take public transit. So to me, it's important, and I think that we need to think more broadly of the impacts. And I'm sure, I received communication, I think email, about the potential strike as did many other people. So thank you for the communications, Patrice. But I also think that the impact really hits those who really don't have a lot of choices. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? I think we have a public comment for this item, so we'll take that.
Yes, we do. Blair, you may begin speaking when you're ready.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thank you for noticing my hand and allowing public comment for this item. As usual, you guys offered some really important, good talking points for this item, so thank you for public comment. Thank you that you want to work on the road update issue with the Board of Supervisors thing. That was an interesting thing to learn about. I'd like to hear it again to better understand it. Thank you. And a real honest good luck to try to negotiate with VTA bus drivers, who it's my understanding you're offering only a 70% a month increase raise for them, whereas most local government workers and police, their contracts are usually for like $800 to $1,000 easily a month for their contract raise negotiations. I hope you can work on that. And they deserve, bus drivers deserve more. Their morale deserves more. Let's work on a real good morale situation. Good luck on how to work on it with them. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And next item is 8.2 announcements. And a friendly reminder that we'll have day 2 of our workshop and orientation tomorrow, March 7th, 9 a.m. at the River Oaks campus. So I'm glad we're able to end a little earlier than our usual time. Looking forward. Thank you to everyone who has confirmed for that. We don't have any closed session items for item number 9. And so with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.